afternoon. Welcome to the November 9th Hamilton County Commission meeting. If you would like to speak, please fill out the card. Once we get going, you won't have an opportunity. So fill out the card and let the clerk know, and please put the topic so we can get everybody in topic, okay? So we want to welcome everybody to our meeting. We always start our meeting with silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So I would ask everyone to join us in silent prayer. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous session.
Second.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Yes.
We have a proclamation that we are presenting today in honor of Adoption Month. And each of you should have it in front of you. Okay. So we have a proclamation today honoring Adoption Month, which reads as following: whereas all children deserve to be safe, happy, and healthy, and alive and living and loving environments where they're protected by their caregivers.
And whereas approximately 400 children in Hamilton County currently are waiting to find permanent homes, and whereas we know that children who find permanency in forever families suffer less trauma and fewer mental health and behavioral issues, and whereas November is recognized as National Adoption Month, a time to call attention to the thousands of children nationwide who are waiting for permanency.
Whereas 10 children will officially join 6 families November the 9th in a special Hamilton County Adoption Day. And whereas we emphasize the importance of adoption for the children of Hamilton County and honor all families that have already chosen adoption. And whereas we also take this time to thank all the child welfare workers involved in adoption for their dedication.
Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners encourages the community to consider opening their hearts to a child in need for forever love, and proclaims that November 2023 be known as Adoption Month in all of Hamilton County.
You got a couple of JFS.
And Jobs and Family Services, will you all come up to say a word? Welcome.
Hello, thank you. My name is Allison Campbell. I am a permanency manager with Hamilton County. And I just want to take the time to thank the commissioners and the people of Hamilton County for their support and helping assist us in getting the children that we have available for adoption, their forever families.
Awesome. I'll open it up. Vice President Dreehouse.
I just want to thank you and the others in the room and your staff and your team for doing what you do. I know it's very difficult to try to place kids in a safe environment that is best in their best interest, but I really appreciate all the time and effort that you put into that. Hamilton County, as we all know, is on the lead when it comes to kinship care and trying to make sure that those kids are safely with relatives and providing that stipend for those families. So it's a continuum of care, and we're really, really grateful for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dumas.
Thank you for all that you do to bring these families together. And anyone who's thinking about it, you don't have to immediately adopt. You can do some temporary emergency sorts of things with children and try it out. And you'll probably get hooked. But I thank all of you for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to come around and take a photo. Gotta get the proclamation. That would be smart, right?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you.
At this point, we have a update from the Hamilton County Veteran Services Commission, and I'm trying to see who's going to be the spokesperson. Is it going to be Bill? You going to be the spokesperson? As Bill is coming, I want to set the tone of why we're doing this, why today, which I think is important. I don't know if we have, I want to turn it over to Mr. Aludo. We had a story obviously came out, WCPO, regarding Veteran Services Commission. And the headline, I may get this wrong, but the headline says something like Hamilton County, $31 million for veterans returned and used for other things. And all of us were stunned and upset about that. And as I've indicated, each of us will express our own selves, but for me, three people you don't mess with me. That's my veterans, my seniors, and my children. And this board, I think, and each of them will talk for their own selves, we have been very bold in trying to make sure that no one is left behind and have one Hamilton County. And even with myself, I have a veteran that volunteers and keeps me advised on different things. And I know she wanted to be more involved. I said, do we make appointments? And the administrator said, no, you do not. And I want to acknowledge her now, a disabled veteran who is here, Teresa Burns. If she would stand, Teresa, U.S. Army. So she keeps me involved, and I wanted her to be a part of my team to keep me updated. And I come from a household of veterans, as you well know. My grandfather, who served in the Navy, my sister-in-law served in the Air Force, and all of my great uncles were in the Army and Marines. And then, of course, Lincoln Ware, who's a proud Marine. So I was really shocked, all of us were, with this. Before you get started, I do want to hear Mr. Aludo to bring us up to speed, because people are looking, and I was looking, and all of us, because each of us have asked, can we do more financial assistance for veterans when we got here? And I know that we can't talk to each other except like when we're here. But I asked Mr. Ludo, and he told me, no, you can't put any more money. They're not going to accept it. And that was when I first got elected, and I wanted to be respectful to the military. Tell me what they need. And so I thought we were being respectful, but I'm very concerned that so many thousands of veterans are being left on the table and not helped. And when I saw Butler County beating us out, you know how I feel. I love Butler County, but Hamilton County, we number one. And I was concerned with that. And as I saw advertisement at our own Paycor Stadium, Bill, you informed me. Yep. And Butler County, we're not knocking them for advertising, but it's like, why aren't we advertising? And these are our stadiums. So, Mr. Aludo, can you bring the people that's watching up to date?
I will. Sure, I will do this very, very quickly so as not to get too much into the presentation by our Veteran Services Commission. Chrissy, I think there was a slide. I'm just going to and this is what I said briefly at the last meeting as well, so I'm not going to go into too much, but just again, in terms of the Ohio Revised Code, so everyone is on the same page. Each county in the state of Ohio has a Veteran Services Commission. The Veteran Services Commission is composed of 5 residents of the county. They're appointed by the Common Pleas Court to 5-year terms. I think, Commissioner, to your question, the process is that the Veteran Services Commission submits a budget request to the Board of County Commissioners. There is a statutory cap as to how much the Board of County Commissioners can approve to fund those services, and I think it's 0.5 of a mil on every dollar of property, which I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I think that's where that $31 million number has been reported. That is, well, if you take that statutory cap and you play that out, it adds up to this amount of money. That it doesn't mean that the Veteran Services Commission has to ask for that amount of money. They ask for a budget in accordance with what they believe they need every year. I'm not aware of we haven't done an extensive scan throughout the state. I don't know how many counties in the state actually ask for that cap. I would suspect it's probably not a lot of them that do, if any. The number, that 31 million, I think is it is a number that's in the revised code, but it speaks to a statutory cap as to what the board can approve. So there has not been $31 million provided to the Veteran Services Commission that was then given back and then used on other projects per se. So I just want to clear that up, just so folks who are reading this have an understanding as to how this has actually worked and how it does work in practice. So. With that,
we're gonna open it up, but I just want people to understand. So we do not make the appointments. That's Court of Common Pleas. Can you put that up one more time? Just want to make sure everybody's following, because we don't make the appointments. We don't appoint the executive director or the people that's working there, or how many people can work there. So I just wanted to make sure that part. And looking forward to hearing from Veteran Services, but I do want to open up for Vice President Driehaus and Commissioner Dumas, if you all want to say something, opening, and then we'll have questions.
Well, I too am looking forward to hearing from Veteran Services and all the folks that filled out the speakers cards. But I do want to say that I just came from an event this morning honoring veterans. Ironically, here we are near Veterans Day, talking about veterans issues, and I think it is obvious why people feel so passionately about this issue. The veterans themselves feel passionately because they've served this country, and we feel passionately because the veterans have served this country honorably, and we want to do all that we can do for veterans in this community. And so I'm anxious to hear from the Veteran Service Commission, as I said, and all the other folks in the room. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dumas?
Thank you. Just very quickly, we should not have to go to other counties to get help. That's number one, as you were saying earlier. And as far as a request by the veterans, I would be interested in knowing, Jeff, for the last 5 years, what has the request been for the Veterans Commission? And someone did print me a lot of information out that I'm going to be looking through. But whatever we need to do to help our veterans, that's what we need to do. And do you know what the last, for the past?
I can get that to you. I don't have it with me, though, Commissioner.
Okay. Because there are so many things I see homeless veterans, and it's just so much that we can do. And the bottom line is we want to do all we can do to make sure veterans are treated the way they should be and with respect. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I know I'm in my first term as a commissioner, but I believe Commissioner Dumas, you had brought up, this may be the first time, I don't know, Commissioner Driehaus, you know, that Veteran Services has come before the board. And that's one change that we want to change, because we've asked every department to come before our board as we're doing our budgeting. That way we can have this back and forth conversation before we turn in or approve a budget. So this today is historic. And I want to thank you, Bill. I know you're not the chair of the board.
No.
But you are concerned about it. Who is the chair? Is the chair here?
Mr. Brewster, would you stand, please?
Mr. Brewster, come on up here so they can see you on TV. This is the chairman. I know you have Bill speaking for you, but Mr. Chairman. And would you like to say something before Bill says anything?
I'd just like to say we had an open meeting yesterday and got some good comments, some things to work on. Several of them we had already discussed in our previous meeting. We want to advertise more, make sure the veterans know we're available, what services are available. And we really appreciate appearing before you today and state our case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Merry
much.
Christmas.
And we thank all the veterans for your service to our country. We just want to make sure when you get back here to our country, we got some services to help you in the county. So, Bill, you going to step up and start us off?
I was going to say that was my whole report, but that would be a lie. You know me, yeah. You know me better
you,
than
Mr.
that.
Chairman.
If commissioners like to talk, you know that, even whether it's a county commissioner or a veteran service commissioner, we do like to speak. So
I'm sorry, Commissioner Dumas.
No, I was just
you wanted to
gonna,
do before?
yeah, I just wanted to indicate that at the end of 19, we decided as far as celebrating veterans, all the buildings will be green, and they've been green since the beginning of this week, all through the weekend. So we celebrate veterans. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All right, Bill, you got the hot seat. What's going on with the veterans, sir? And you got, I'm sorry, we did.
I'm gonna introduce him shortly. So first of all, county commissioners, Commissioner Dumas, Commissioner Reese, Commissioner Driehaus, your staff, everybody, we want to thank you for the opportunity to come in front of you and discuss the Veterans Service Commission office over on 9th Street, and hopefully open better lines of communication between the offices, not just between the offices here at Hamilton County, but at the VA hospital and other wraparound services that we currently use that are available out there for all of our veterans. I want to start off by saying that every veteran service officer that works for the Veterans Service Commission is also an honorably discharged veteran at some point, whether it's Korean War, Vietnam War, the Gulf Wars, peacetime service. The one thing that we all have in common, regardless of when we served, is that we were all veterans. And we also have the, obviously, as every other veteran should, have the best interest of our veterans at heart in everything that they do over there. Want to give you a little background on the Veterans Service Commission. If you look, you can find us on the Ohio Department of Veteran Services, but it originally started in the late 19th century in Ohio and all 88 counties to take care of Civil War veterans that were coming back. If you remember, they were a lot of Civil War veterans from Ohio that were permanently maimed and disabled. Their families lost their primary breadwinners. This was a way to help the state of Ohio recognize those veterans to help take care of their families going forward. So that has morphed a couple of times over the last 100 some odd years into what you see today, which is all 88 counties have got an individual Ohio Department of Veteran Services for their particular county. One thing we do is we all have the same vision. We have the same mission. The vision of the Ohio Department of Veteran Services is to be the trusted voice for veterans. We feel that we do that in Hamilton County. Can we do it better? Absolutely. We feel that we can do it a whole lot better. The mission, provide opportunities and resources for our veteran community through advocacy, collaboration, and partnerships. And I'll get into that a little more in just a minute. Our values, these are core values that I would hope every veteran and every county resident, and quite frankly, every human being on this planet would share in. Respect, compassion, integrity, teamwork, excellence, and I think that all of us could benefit probably from a little more grace for each other throughout our lives, and especially when dealing with our brother and sister veterans. So, Veteran Services, we coordinate programs and operations with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Even though we are not directly affiliated with the VA hospital on Vine Street, we do coordinate. Many of the veterans go there for appointments. Many of the appointments these veterans have are also at different areas of town that are not directly affiliated with the VA hospital. So transportation to some of those can be an issue, and that is another discussion that we're having as this report came to light. We communicate and coordinate with other state agencies concerning veterans programs and support for veterans. And at the state level, they actually operate 2 veterans homes, one in Sandusky and one in Georgetown. They're open to Ohio resident veterans who served in periods of armed conflict. So there are 2 state homes that are operated through the Ohio Department of Veterans Services. As I stated, we do have a working relationship with the VA hospital, not directly affiliated through any government entity that I'm aware of. So the Ohio Department of Veterans Services is a department of the Ohio State government under the direction of the governor's cabinet. Commissioner Ashenhurst is who runs the cabinet for Governor DeWine at this time. So they are the administrative body for all 88 county commissions. I give you that background of the state organization just to give you a little more education on what these commissions actually do and what they're tasked with doing through Ohio Revised Code. But that's not why we're here today. We're here before you today because there are veterans in Hamilton County who do not feel they are being justly served by our Veterans Service Commission. We're here today because there have been misunderstandings about the funding that the office receives and ultimately how that money is spent or not spent. We're here today to help educate you all on who we are and what we are tasked with doing under Ohio Revised Code. As Bob Brewster mentioned earlier, yesterday we held our monthly commission meeting over at the offices on 9th Street. And first and foremost, we want to thank every veteran that came in yesterday and voiced their concerns. And many of those veterans are here today. And if you would, the veterans that were there yesterday, if you would just raise your hand and be acknowledged, because we really do want to thank you for bringing these issues to light for the Veterans Service Commission. Thank you. We want to assure you and every veteran of Hamilton County that we heard you, we see you, we feel you, we are you. We are veterans of Hamilton County also, and I don't think that can be overstated. And our goal over there as commissioners, as veteran service officers, is to provide the best possible service for every veteran that comes through the door, contacts us online, via phone call, whatever the case may be over here at the county jail, where these veteran service officers do a lot of great work. We want to provide the best service that we possibly can. Why do we do that? Because improving the experience for Hamilton County veterans has to be front and center in everything that we do, everything. For me personally, serving on this commission has been an honor that ranks right up there with my own military service. I've come to know our veteran service officers, our executive director, our administrative assistant, and my brother and sister commissioners as upstanding, honorable, compassionate, and like all veterans, somewhat stubborn. I want to make sure that you all know what an outstanding job they do working within the confines of the system in its current state. Like any organization that existed for more than a few years, it can become somewhat monolithic. And that is why meetings like the one that we held yesterday are so important. There are veterans in Hamilton County going back to World War II, all the way up to the current conflicts that our country is a part of today. The common denominator, as I stated earlier, we are all veterans, regardless of what or when our military service was. This is my own, through my own eyes, that I feel the biggest difference possibly is quite possibly the generational divide between our veterans' ranks. Veterans in today's day and age communicate differently, they congregate differently, they socialize differently, they do many things different from our veterans that came back from past wars such as Vietnam and Korea. And there are many good reasons for that. Communicating with our veterans in Hamilton County, along with our county commission, is one of the biggest areas that we as commissioners feel needs improvement. We're exploring the many ways that today's generation of veterans communicate, utilizing social media, text messaging, and far more platforms that are far different from the posting of the flyers at the American Legion and the VFW in years past. That is something that we are very well in tune with and feel that communication better communication between us and you all here at the county and other organizations could have helped this situation not become inflamed and allow us to provide better services for all of our veterans, which is ultimately all that we want to do. The marketing of our services is another area that was mentioned yesterday. We heard that loud and clear as well. Many of the counties in Ohio have robust marketing campaigns that we can look at and utilize and pull best practices from as we go forward from that meeting yesterday. It's our sincere belief that as we market our services and effectively communicate with our veteran population and our county commissioners, there's going to be a need for more providers within the office to handle the increased workload. We also believe that the Hamilton County community has many stakeholders. The Cincinnati Reds, the Bengals, FC Cincinnati, Procter & Gamble, Western and Southern. I could go on and on and on about community stakeholders that we feel, if we reach out, can provide assistance to help us provide better benefits for health fairs, veteran stand-downs, things of that nature that are going on in communities around us that maybe went on here in the past and for whatever reason the ball got dropped, or however you want to word it. They're not as prevalent as they were, but they need to be. If other counties are putting on events around Veterans Day for their veterans, we need to be looking at what they're doing, and what will work in Butler County will work in Hamilton County, and try to emulate what they're doing and improve on it for our veterans. We as commissioners believe that an open line of communication, the implementation of new ideas and marketing of the services we can provide will help to ensure every veteran of Hamilton County an experience that is both beneficial to them and lets them know that they are being treated with compassion and respect and dignity every time that they come to that office or contact one of us on the phone. We want to serve the community as it was intended when the Veterans Service Commission in the state of Ohio was founded all those years ago. We're happy to answer any questions that the county commissioners have. There were many, many, many great ideas brought up yesterday, and we've got a list of those. I can go over a few of those. There was issues brought up around something as simple as parking downtown. If you have to come down to the Veterans Service Commission on 9th Street, you're a veteran that is possibly homeless, you're a veteran that is down on their luck, you're coming down there to try and get assistance, and the first thing you get hit with is a $12 parking bill. That is something that came up yesterday that I had never even thought of in my 5 years on the board. Is it something, and we'll look into, is it something as simple as us being able to validate that parking, pay that parking when they come in? I don't know. Those are things that we're going to look into. The other thing that was brought up is over there on 9th Street is maybe not the most welcoming building for folks that have to come in there. We had a veteran come in yesterday, combat veteran, wounded, full of metal parts, and had to be patted down, unfortunately, by our Hamilton County sheriffs. Something as simple as that can be can make you feel degraded and less of a human being. Those are all things that need to be considered as we go forward with this. So, is there a better location for the Hamilton County Veterans Service Office? Whether it's downtown, whether it's out in Norwood, maybe by the Board of Elections, maybe it's in Montgomery Road, but somewhere that is equally accessible with possibly free parking for our veterans and things of that nature. So those are all things, and there's a whole lot more that was brought up that were taken into consideration. Look forward to working with my fellow commissioners and our veteran service officers to work on these issues and move them forward so that these veterans that have come to us with these complaints start to feel that they are being treated humanely and compassionately and everything else. So with that, I don't have any other remarks. I do want to introduce, at our executive session yesterday, we had discussion, and our current director, William Betcher, is going to be out of the office for medical reasons. And we felt that some of the things the veterans brought up, that we need to have an interim executive director in that position so that we can fulfill the duties and the requirements of the office. So at that executive session yesterday, we made the decision to bring on Calvin Wooten, who is one of our veteran service officers. He's been there 9 years, correct? 8 years. Been there 8 years as a veteran service officer. I encourage you to question him and talk to him about his work even prior to the Veterans Service Commission that he has done with different organizations around Cincinnati. I think he's going to be a key piece of this puzzle as we move forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Calvin Wooten.
Hello, Commissioner Reese and the rest of the commissioners. My name's Calvin Wooten. I've been a Chief Veteran Service Officer for the past 8 years. Before that, I wrote a treatment program for homeless veterans. It's called Joseph House, and it's still in existence. It's the only treatment facility outside a VA hospital for veterans. Had a lot of good ideas come in yesterday. I think there was a lot of misunderstanding about the financial piece. We're not giving money back because we never got the money in the first place. But I understand the frustration and the needs of some of the veterans that were in the meeting yesterday and talking about we can do more. And that's always something that can happen. You can always do more for the veterans. And we're here to answer any questions that the board or the commissioners may have. We're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work. We're going to open up for questions. The way the system, the state system has set this up, you're an independent board, and we do not, you don't work for us or the administrator. We're not oversighting your funding and those kind of things. We're oversighting trying to give you the funding, but what you request, what you use according to the administrator. We don't make appointments to the boards, but then when something like this happens, because the public can't get to an unelected board, but they can get to us because we're elected, and they said Hamilton County, and people want to know, what do we have to say? And it makes it hard when we've never had the Veterans Commission ever have to come before us. We have to ask, we thank you for coming, but we can't make you come like we can do with jobs and family services and those kind of things. So for me, I just want to figure out how to, if we're going to be held accountable, then we've got to have some kind of authority or connection, ongoing understanding, and it can't be tied to just the personalities because board members change, et cetera. It needs to be kind of systematic. So I'm going to open it up for our colleagues. I have questions, but I'm going to let them start off. We're going to start off with Vice President Treehouse.
Well, I too have questions, but I was hoping to hear also from the public. Can we go to the public next? Or do you want to go to us next?
I think we need to ask some questions, then the public.
Okay.
We got a lot of cards.
I am anxious to hear the ideas, though. Because I think we're going to learn more as the public testifies to the ideas that were alluded to. But some things that have been brought up, and I agree that this is like a flashpoint where we are having a conversation about something that I think people were unaware was an issue to begin with, and those that were feeling that the commission wasn't serving them well didn't really know where to go with that either. So I'm glad that we are having this dialogue and this conversation with both groups, all veterans. So a couple things that were mentioned, and I just wanted to follow up on. Bill, you mentioned a couple of things, communication being key to moving forward. I think I will speak for myself. I would agree that communication is going to be critical. Although we are not the oversight board, we do convey a budget over per the request of the Veterans Services Commission, and so we do have a role to play here. And so I will be interested in having an ongoing conversation with the Veterans Services Commission as you move through this, as you update your practices, as you respond to some of the concerns. And having the VA hospital in that mix, I think will be helpful moving forward. I agree that the marketing that has been done in the past probably is not entirely relevant to some of the veterans that are amongst us today. And so we learned this during COVID. People don't receive their information in the same way. Different people of different ages, of different demographics, of different regions received information in different ways. And I think we have to always be reminding ourselves that if we have veterans that are not looking at the VFW poster board, well, we got to figure out another way to make sure that those veterans also know what is available to them so that it can be a two-way street. Otherwise, we're just missing people. And I think that's part of the problem that we have seen most recently by way of what we've heard in our office. So I think that also is a great idea. I'm intrigued by the idea of the change in location. We hear a lot of complaints. I'm sure everyone in this room right now would complain about parking because we hear it all the time when people come down to our meetings. And so I know that can be a challenge. So I'm certainly open to the idea of having a place that not only is more accessible by way of parking, free parking, but more accessible for someone that has a disability and has a difficult time navigating whatever kind of space we make available. So certainly open to that. And then the other piece that it has not been mentioned, but we've had some conversations prior to this meeting. So as has been stated, the ORC dictates who sits on the Veteran Services Commission. There are 5 members. They're from certain wars, certain conflicts, and those individuals represent the commission. The challenge with that is that individuals that have served, the veterans that have served in the most recent conflicts, by design, aren't on the commission because those conflicts aren't included in the ORC. And so from my vantage point, if we want to continue to have different perspectives weighing in on the services that are being made available by the VSC, it seems to me that we want to have membership that's reflective of that. I understand that would under one scenario, mean a change in the ORC. But I can't imagine why folks that serve in the legislature wouldn't understand this dynamic. And I'm not suggesting that the 5 members no longer serve. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that the 5 members continue to serve because they've got the longevity and the history, but we bring new voices into that conversation. And so whether it's a change in the board itself, whether there's something that can be created under the VSC that makes sure those voices are heard, I mean, I feel like that's a large part of the problem right now is that so many people have gone unheard. And so we need to not only say, oh, that's a problem, but figure out structurally a way to fix it so it doesn't continue to be a problem. And in 5 years, we're not having the same conversation again because that fell off. So open to a conversation about that, whether it's going to the legislature or doing something internally. I don't know what the answer is, but it seems to me that that would be really helpful moving forward. Thank you.
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
I just I wanted to maybe throw one more thing out there under the communication piece, and that would be the media outlets. They play as big a part in this as anybody else in the county. If there were a way for the media outlets to be included in that communication piece so that veterans that are shut in at home and are watching 5, 9, or 12, or 19, or whatever spectrum, whatever they're watching, that they're getting the information also. And I think that that's another critical piece of this, is reaching out to the media outlets and the radio, 700 WLW and everybody else, and making sure that they're covering this and helping us to get the information out also.
And maybe that's simply a marketing piece.
And I do want to thank Craig McKee with Channel 9. I'm not sure if you know or not, but he is a veteran. His wife is a veteran. And I think that with his voice, that this is going to be a really good thing for Hamilton County.
It goes without saying we wouldn't be here without the initial report. So thank you for your work on this, and thank you all for being willing to dialogue.
Thank you. Commissioner Dumas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, thank you for presentation and congratulations on your position. Sounds like to me that VSC is going into a new dimension, thinking outside of the box with the suggestions that you have. Just 2 solutions I would think of as you talk about transportation. We are having a satellite office in Forest Park. that could be a possibility. Maybe that office could be in there, but of course, we'd have to do a demographic assessment of how many veterans are out there and can they get there. So that might be an option also. I think another solution would be, since this is a critical issue at this point, that even though we have no authority technically, that maybe the board have a representative at those meetings as we move forward. And I would take the responsibility from my office to make sure that there is some representation, not to just look over you guys, but to see how we could directly help you all and as you move forward. So I just wanted to put that out on the table to the board. That's all I have.
So, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. Thank you, we received minutes, I believe, this week. It's the first time we ever got minutes. And I was looking at the financials. I want to thank my office and my intern. I had them go through it because it was a lot to try to hurry up and get before we got this meeting. But there were a couple things that jumped out at me. And I wanted to make sure, and you gave us 19, I think I got 19 to 23. So if we go to 19, that was before COVID, and we look at the amount of money, it says appropriation amount $530,456. I would assume that's what was requested as before I got here, requested of the county at that time. Unexpended balance, it had on here, and I make sure I'm reading this right, it has $481,064. So we didn't, according to this here that you gave us. It goes on to another one. It had next 2023, the appropriation amount $350,000. It says disbursement total so far is $23,148. Unexpended balance is the words that you used. It has $326,852. I guess that, I don't know if these are appropriated, but we look at stuff like 2023, so far, we've only spent $320 on transportation. I don't know if a lot of, Bill, you and I talked about these, we met, and I appreciate one of my recommendations where we needed an interim if the executive director was unable to carry on, because we need obviously more than one person being able to do the work. But when we look at food, a recommendation for rent, $15,000, because we do help, you do help military folks with $15,000, help them with their rent, you help them with utilities. Utilities, $2,173 with the Duke Energy bills that's jumping like this. I just don't think enough veterans know that they will pay for your utilities. I mean, these numbers are very, very low from what I was seeing. And then it had pharmacy, $0. I don't know if that's allowed, but if it is allowable, but it has on here things that are miscellaneous. It has doctors, it has pharmacies, it has medical pay. We did put $400 in medical pay. I'm just saying these numbers seem so low with 40,000 veterans. Eyeglasses, you know they need glasses, is $0. So I'm trying to get a better understanding. I know 23, we're trying to get back at it, but then I went 22, of course, that was a pretty tough year. We did spend $70 on glasses. But I mean, I'm running into so many people that need it. I don't even know you can get glasses for $70. Transportation, $30. Food, $5,000. Rent, we stay at that number of $14,000. I know there's rules, because we know we've been doing rental assistance, so we understand rules. But some of these veterans have come to our JFS bus, and we've been helping them over there. We've done $100 million, when really that could have opened up, and we got a lot more people that need it. We could have said, no, you go over here on the veteran side, and the veterans' money would help you with the rental. That would open it up for a person who's not a veteran to be able to get those other dollars. That's why I think coordination is very, very expensive. You know how I feel about the bus passes. Buses are not delivering people to the front door. You might have to walk a little bit. Bernadette Watson, she called me up and said, hey, she had a veteran, and she called over there a couple years ago, and it was just not nice. this veteran was on a walker, got a bus pass, but had to take 2 buses and then still walk. And she couldn't believe it. And then Butler County and these folks got a van that's dropping you off at the front door. I wouldn't be against us having a van to drop our folks off to the front door. And then in 2021, it says appropriation amount $528,197. And then it says unexpended balance, $498,317. And then you go to transportation, $140. Clothing, $400. Food, $4,000. Rent went up a little bit, $21,000. Utilities still $2,292. I know there's some veterans out there that need their gas and electric paid. Of course, 2020, that's when we hit COVID. We understand that. $528,197. It says appropriated. That's what it says. Disbursement, $42,057. Unexpended, $486,140. But these are just what we were provided. So I wanted to, when I look at rent, utilities, I mean, those should be jumping off the charts. And then obviously, if it's allowed, because it says miscellaneous, so it must be allowed. Doctors, pharmacy, zero for pharmacy, 0 for glasses. So this is what y'all gave me. I just going by what you gave me. I don't have nothing else. But if those are not accurate, my point is to bigger pieces, these numbers should be thousands of people. Even if these numbers are whatever it is, it still should be, to me, thousands. And so I want to help us get to helping thousands, and I want to help. Before I'm gonna let you give me a card. I'm gonna let you say something, but I wanted to say that I introduced this. I talked about it verbally last week. I want to introduce this week because no matter who ends up being in charge, who is on the board, we have no say on the board. We have no say on who will be in charge, and this is beyond our board because 20 years from now, it'll be somebody else. We need to have something for veterans that's part of our organizational chart here at the county. We have an org chart. We're adding different. We've got an office of small business. We got an office of youth. All these are good things. We have Mr. Anson. Even though we have a lobbyist outside, we've got him here to help be a liaison between Columbus and the folks inside. So I have a motion. I'm just going to pass this out. Y'all can have it. I asked the administrator to look into it, but I wanted it formally on the record. It's called Veteran Support Motion. In light of recent reports that tens of thousands of Hamilton County veterans have not been adequately served by the state-established Hamilton County Veterans Services Commission, I am submitting the following Veteran Support Motion to help expand veteran services, maximize engagement, and strengthen accountability. Based on information provided by the county administration, Ohio state law indicates that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners does not appoint Veteran Services Commission board members or staff, nor does the Board of Commissioners have direct oversight over operations. As a result, I am recommending the following items be added as additional services to the veterans, which were included in my budget policy that was sent around in 2024. They are as follows. Number one, I'm recommending the establishment of an Office of Veteran Affairs that would report to our administration. That office, it's kind of like we have an Office of Women and Girls. It doesn't have to be full-time, but that office under the Board of Commissioners and the county administrator with an ombudsman. So we would have an ombudsman here to serve as a liaison between the citizens, the board, and Veteran Services Commission to better assist with delivery and marketing resources and opportunities to Hamilton County veterans. So that person will be assigned to it because our offices only get 2 people and we've got a lot we have to do. But that person will be assigned to being the liaison with Veteran Services Commission. Second, allocating additional funding to Veteran Service Commission to procure a van for transportation for veterans, provide the additional services to veterans that you all might recommend, and expand marketing and outreach efforts, which we will hear about later. because we don't need to just have advertising if we can't deliver. We got to be able to deliver. And then the third thing is establishment of the county's first ever annual Hamilton County Veterans Appreciation Resource Day. I started working on one, but when I heard about this, I said we're going to postpone because we want to have something even bigger. And this Resource Day appreciation for veterans in Hamilton County will be at our very own, I'm recommended having it at our very own Paycor Stadium with on-site application process. You can go there and apply right on site, and access to grants, housing, workforce, healthcare, disability, food assistance, and we'll have it a lot of fun for all the veterans. This day should be marketed and promoted with paid advertisements, so I want it in the budget, text messaging, and transportation services. And then I highlight, according to our stadium contract of the Paycor Stadium, community days are granted under the current lease. And one of those community days should be this. This event should be done before the Bengals season. I'm recommending maybe April, while the stadium sits empty. So I'd like to give this to the clerk, have that in there. And I know there'll be other things, but we need something over here. So when we get these type of things, we can't be surprised. And we will have an ongoing relationship with Veteran Affairs. So those are just my recommendations. But that's what I saw in this, what you gave us. And maybe if we misinterpreted, please let us know.
That's what I stepped up for.
Okay, well, tell us your name and who
Yes.
you are and what you do.
I'm Pam Minster. I am the administrative assistant at the Hamilton County Veteran Service Commission. I provided the minutes for you. It wasn't easy, but I got it done. Those are monthly reports. That's not like a year-end report. We used to do a lot more with glasses, but the Department of Veterans, the VA Medical Center developed a program, and they have where veterans can get glasses. Anybody who needs glasses, they request it. We help them with it. You know, and it's on the applications when they submit their application if they need help with it. So we don't help with something if we don't know about it. They complete an application, they list their income, they list what their monthly expenses are, and then they list what their requests are. Now, there are times when we're like, well, you only got $600 coming in, but your rent's $450. How are you going to pay your rent and food? So we'll help them with rent and whatever else they may need to get them through that hump. So we look at the whole picture for each and every person that comes in. We will go above and beyond to help and make sure no one is left behind or gets put out or without electricity. You know, that's what we're there for. And I've been doing it for a very long time, and I've been very proud to be doing what I do there.
Right, we appreciate all that you've done.
And if there's any more numbers you need, I'd be more than happy to provide anything for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. What I want to do is get a regular from the administrator. We do budgets, but we don't have, I'm just now getting minutes. This is my first time. Maybe they've done it before, but that's why we want to come forward. But we've got a veteran out here shaking her head. She just came from the VA. She said there is no glasses there. So what I'm trying to make sure is that we're giving you, I think probably who has come to you, you've been able to do that, but the problem is not enough people probably have come out. And that's what we're trying
correct,
to get
yeah.
more people to show up.
Right. If they put in an application and they're not eligible for the glasses up there, we know, and they tell us I can't get them up there, then we'll help them.
Yeah.
But as far, I'm kind of confused about one thing though. I'm just going to throw numbers out there. Say we requested 1.5 million for our budget, and we turned back in 75,000 that we don't use. Okay, so that we did not use that. Where does that money go? That's what the folks are wanting to know. If we don't spend it, it was in our budget and we didn't spend it, a lot of people want to know where those monies went to that we turned back in. That's been our question. That's what we've been bombarded with.
Yeah. Well, we got two questions.
Okay.
My first question to you all, when I'm looking at this, why aren't the word out to enough people so you don't turn nothing back in? But I also got a question. Mr. Aludo could answer that question. I wasn't aware anything was turned back in. I was trying to be respectful because you guys are the military, and you're saying that you only want this much. This was shocking to me, and I'm a marketer, so when I get the word out, I hope you got enough staff, because I got people in here right now who need glasses, who would use the money. I got people right now who got rental situations that would qualify and they need the money. I got people right now that got utility bills and they need the money. And people been calling my office that they didn't know nothing about it, that this stuff was available.
We understand that was
Yeah,
a
so we
flaw
got
on
two
our part.
questions, I think two questions here. One, we're willing to put the money out there. But what I want to make sure, because I'm getting some nasty calls about things that have happened over where you're at. I don't know if you're the one answering the phones, but the people said that hasn't been polite. People are, like you just said, it's at the VA. They over there saying that ain't no way. They just came from the VA. So, Mr. Ludo, talk about the money. Where is the money? You
So
bring it to
the
us.
question that Pam have is if the veteran service, if they spend less than the appropriated amount, and where does that go? It's a general fund general fund operation. So at the end of the day, if there is an amount that is not spent, that comes back to the general fund ultimately, and it can be reappropriated in the next year's budget if there is a request for it. So,
But who requests the money?
So
'Cause I wanna-
veteran
because this headline
It is,
is
it's a big
dangerous.
deal.
My thing is, who comes with the number to request?
Veteran Services Commission will come in with a request, just like any other department.
So you set the number.
Right.
My question is, we think it's a low number, and we want to know why you didn't spend it.
That's just poor advertising on our services part of it. And we can't.
I'm
and
just
we
saying,
have-
I want to be
yeah.
clear. I'm not trying to talk for all of us.
We have
He's
guidelines.
saying spend the money.
Right.
Right. Well, we
They give
would, if we could spend it on everything, we would, but we have guidelines that we have to follow under the Ohio Revised Code. We can't just, drop out there and start paying car payments and,
no.
and someone who hasn't paid their utility bill because they just didn't want to for 6 months.
Yeah, well, let me
have
say
to
that
use
before
that
we start.
correctly.
I don't want all veterans getting a negative vibe saying
No,
that.
and I don't.
Because let me say, Butler County somehow is within the law and finding more people to help. And the other thing, and you can't tell me more veterans in Butler County than they are here. The second thing I just want to say, because when I first got elected, that's what happened. We had a county employee saying, just like you said, we got this money from American Rescue. It was $50 million. There's nobody who wants it. We can't get it out. We might need to send it back to Washington. And then we came with a bus, and people was at 3 a.m. in the morning lined up to get this, and now we done helped over $100 million. Now, what if we had listened and said, well, the people ain't right, they ain't got this. I'm confused because we're saying we want to do more. When I got here, I said, I want to do more. Jeff Aludo told me they not going to accept it. And I try to be respectful because y'all the military, y'all supposed to know, a little bit more than me.
Yeah, I don't know
And so
about
I
that.
said, well, wait a minute, how do we do this? But when I see
What
things
did they
like
give
on
back?
here that ain't been,
Go ahead.
things on here that hasn't been done, the question you should have, not the question about what do I do when I send it back, the question, because we gave it to you, why you didn't spend the money? That's the question.
If
And I
it's
just
not
wanna be
requested,
clear,
we
'cause
can't
want to
spend
get
it.
more. We want to do more.
Oh, we'd love to. We'd love to be able to do more.
But
Trust
you
me.
just said you can't. How you gonna do more when you just got up, started saying veterans, y'all paying car notes and you're doing it? No, we got some veterans in here right now that is qualified that didn't even know you offered some of these things. So, I don't want to play games where you just put it back to them. Oh, well, where did the money go? I'm asking you, where did the money go?
I'm asking because that's what we were being asked.
Yeah, but you're the answer. We gave you the money, so where did the money go? Why did you not spend it?
We spent what was requested, what we could, and what people wanted at the time. We need to market more. We can get more marketing out there and do something to get the word out about us. That's our step. That's what we need to do. And we can do that.
Commissioner Dumas, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm scratching my head a little bit. I think there's two questions. Why didn't you spend more? Because it's more to be spent. And the second question, which I'm getting really confused, what did you give back? How much have you? Where is it? What did you give back the last 5 years? And so you were saying you couldn't give anything back because you didn't have anything. What were you saying? I'm confused. How much did they give back?
Jeff?
I don't have an annual amount for how
Know
much.
that. We need to know
I mean,
that.
I can provide that to you. I don't have.
So it's absolutely imperative that we know what they gave back. The question of whether or not they spent enough, it has to do with marketing and communication, that's for sure. That's part of it anyway. But then when you look at the numbers that you gave, and because I can, it's like almost deja vu. I can remember like in 2020, like they only spent $7,000. When you said about it was 500 and then it ended up being 400,000. How? I mean, how can that be with the need? I understand you're not reaching enough people, but I want to know, what did you give back? And so we should have had that today, not going back and checking, because this is critical.
Yep, so the unexpended balance that is on there would be that amount of money, and you are
Where
correct.
did it go? Where is it? I mean, where did it go when they? So the
my understanding, it goes
balance,
back
like
to
you
the
said,
general
of
fund.
400 and something.
Anything that is not, it's as a general fund operation, anything that is not spent would go back to the general fund reserve to be
So-
reappropriated upon request, right?
So we're not doing as good as we think we're doing in our general fund, because they need to be spending more. And I would much rather that you are standing there saying, we need 50,000 more, we need 100,000 more.
Right.
I can understand that. But I don't understand this at all. This is a puzzle for me, and we're gonna get it straight. We're gonna work together, get it straight, get the marketing done, find out how much was sent back, and find out where the need is, do an assessment of that. So,
And it has to be
good.
done ASAP. We can't just say, oh, we're gonna go back. I need a deadline. I want a deadline, 30 days. I wanna have what we're doing moving forward. Because we getting ready to vote on a budget.
right.
And I don't understand, I don't know, Mr. Ludo, we just go by what you recommend. Is it something, did you see a pattern or something, or was there a pattern that you might have seen, or something we need to keep our eye on?
In terms of,
The money and the amount of people being helped, was it something we need to?
so we don't get operational reports in terms of the number of people assisted. We do get that upon request during budget time when analysts reach out. In terms of the amount of budget spent, that is something that we can identify very specific trends on. So in terms of relief payments, et cetera, we can tell the board precisely, here's what was requested for relief payments, here's what was spent, et cetera. So we can get that to you very quickly.
Could I just ask one other question?
Yes.
As we look at our reserve and our general budget, that incorporates, of course, what they sent back to us to have our reserve look as good as it does, right?
Yes, it would fall back to the general fund reserve, correct?
Well, but can I just wait? I mean, the amount of money, I think, being returned compared to the general fund reserve is relatively small, because the reserve is so
It's
big.
gonna be
It's
a relatively
Right.
small amount
But-
in
and
proportion to the general fund.
I hear what you're saying. I think that the idea here is that we stand at the ready to do more. If you were to request more today, this board would say, yep, we'll give you what you request, because we want more services to go out. We want more people to receive the services and expanded services under the ORC stipulations. We get it, there are stipulations. But I think the idea here is that, we need to work with you to expand the services to more people and then expand the services as far as you can. I think you hear this board saying, we want to do as much as we possibly can under the restrictions of the ORC. And that's what the numbers are getting at, and that's what we're trying to convey here. So to me, it doesn't really matter as much about what you're giving back so much as what we're giving you, and knowing that you're going to do the work to expand your operations so that you use all the money that we give you. I mean, I think that's at least where I sit.
Commissioner Dumas, and then we're gonna hear.
Yeah,
from
just
Ron.
one comment. It is important to me what you're giving back. And it is important to me, if you ask today for more money, my vote would be no.
Oh, sorry.
Because why
Sorry, I
all of a
misstated it.
sudden you guys have figured out that we need this much more, this one. I want to see a plan, a strategy as you ask for increases. So with those balances, I don't see any increases necessary, but as we make a better assessment, you guys come back and say, we spent this on rent, whatever we spent it on. Yes, of course, I would vote for it, but at this point, no. I would not vote for any increase. I want you to use what you have. Don't give us anything back unless you have to. Integrity is the whole deal, as you talked earlier. So, sorry.
Thank you. We're gonna hear from the audience, but Mr. Ludo, I want y'all to get together in 30 days, and we wanna because we getting ready to vote on a budget. And I wanna have in 30 days before we vote on the budget, what is our veterans plan? We gotta do something different. Can't do what we've been doing. What we've been doing is what we got. So, I'd like to also see my motion vetted out to see if we can have a better connection. What I laid out with the ombudsman and with the big day we want to do, as well as some possible procurement of vans, et cetera. But we can't we just change one person and we're gonna run. No, we need to do it different. And it has to be a partnership between what we can control on this side and what you guys have to do with the ORC. And we need it before we vote on the budget. So I've given you 30 days, but really you need 14 days to get this together, what we're gonna do. So everybody knows this is the direction, and then we can vote when we get our budget, how we're going to move forward. So I wanted to put that out there. At this time, we have some speakers, some veterans, or that want to speak on the veterans issues. Rodriguez, what's your first name? Benny, I'm sorry. Benny Rodriguez, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Hello, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Benito Rodriguez. I go by Benny. I served multiple tours in Iraq, and I sustained a lot of injuries there, and I've been through the VA. I just got out of PTSD treatment for 2 weeks at the Fort Thomas VA, and sometimes it's not what you say, sometimes it's how you say it. And when I called the VSC yesterday, I got hit with a barrage of no's, and you're not qualified before even hearing me out. I voted on Tuesday. I'm a resident of Hamilton County. I've been summoned for jury duty. I'm a resident. But because I don't have a lease in my name, I'm not quote unquote a resident. They can't really help me out with certain things. I mean, that was just kind of an issue I thought was a little, in terms of qualifications and whatnot. I wanted to thank WCPO for Craig for shedding some light on this. Not necessarily maybe what, in terms of budget, but I think it did a good job to bring a lot of veterans together for new ideas, to, shed some light on how things are just kind of ancient. And I think I want to echo Bill's sentiments about, the generational gap between guys like myself who served in the most recent war versus guys in the Vietnam. Like you said, we don't talk, I don't go to the VFW or the American Legion. It's just not typically what we do. Also, just wanted to say thanks to the VSC. I know that they were punching bags yesterday, and it wasn't in my intention to go off like that. I just had a lot of anger, and I wanted to say I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Danica Whitty, am I saying that right? Donrica, I'm sorry.
Hello. I'm here on the behalf of my husband, Curtis Whitty. He's residing over at the VA hospital in the CLC clinic. And the reason why I'm here is I've been trying to get assistance to get a bigger housing for his wheelchair to go throughout the house to get him home. We've been separated since 2010. We got married in 2005. I've been separated from him for 13 years. and I've done everything that I was told to do. I was told to get information about my housing, information about him. I did everything, and they gave me a pitch. They sent me a letter telling me that I was pre-approved for a $300,000 loan to get him home. So I jumped through all the hurdles. I did everything they told me. Down to the last day, she told me that I couldn't get it because of my rental place where I'm renting at said I was late 5 times on my rent, which I wasn't. I made a zero balance and everything. So they denied me the loan to go purchase a house to bring my husband home. And not only that, my husband served since 69. He's been in the Army for a very long time, and he did 30 plus years. He's in the reserves. He is 100% disabled. And I just left from a care meeting for him. I just found out that my husband's no longer going to be able to walk. He's going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He's only 72 years old. I'm not trying to get emotional, but this hurts when he puts his life on the line for our country to save our children and our grandchildren and our great children that have a future, and he can't get what he needs to get himself together. He can't even come home and be with his family, and there's plenty of veterans out here that's with their family. There's veterans out here that's not with their family. So I'm not only fighting for my husband, I'm also fighting for those other veterans that's not making it home. And all I'm asking is the commissioner has talked about the vets. What about the veterans' family? What about their wives? What about their children? What about us? We are the naysayers. We're in the background lifting up our husband and our wives that's been in here. We're in the background. We're going through the pain, the agony, the lifting them up, breaking our shoulders, messing up our backs. We're doing all this backfield work to make sure that our significant others is still living and still doing what they need to do for themselves, but they're not getting their just due. And I'm just asking if there's any way that the commissioner, Ohio, anybody that has anything to do with the VA, if there's anything that they can actually do to help out the fellow brothers and sisters that's out here searching to get a bigger place, to get their family home, to get their family back together and stop breaking up the veterans' families, because my husband's mindset is leaving and my grandchildren are the only ones that's keeping him alive. And I don't want to see him deteriorating simply because they won't help me get a bigger place to bring him home because he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I'm just asking for some assistance. That's all I'm asking for.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. And we have all the commission here, so I'm sure before you leave, hopefully someone can work with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you so much. April Colberth.
Hi, thank you for allowing us to speak again today, especially me. I'm so glad to see so many veterans have come out today. Thanks to the commission, the Veteran Service Commission, for coming out. I was one of the veterans that was at the meeting yesterday with the Veteran Service Commission. And congratulations to the new interim director. One of the things that we were looking for was diversity on the board. Even into the sense of ethnic diversity. I'm not saying that he does not deserve the position. I'm glad that he's there. The thing that is the shocker for me is the knee-jerk reaction of who's going to be an interim director. When we know that they don't have as many VSOs that they need down there currently if we're going to be serving more veterans and taking in and advertising for more veterans to come into the place. They already don't have that many VSO officers to serve them. And one of the things that we discussed was to increase the number of VSO officers. So that would take the burden off. Getting just what you were speaking about, getting a public affairs or someone there to take the burden off as far as advertising, social media, and things like that. How how are the veterans going to be affected if a VSO officer is actually an interim director as well now? That's one of the questions I have. Again, I thank them for hearing all of our concerns and listening and figuring out ways to implement them. But I'm really interested on how they came up, because I didn't know until now that there's an interim director right now. So I'm just really concerned about that. And I'll yield my time to the rest of the veterans that would like to speak today.
Thank you. Stephen Staniford.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners, Madam Vice President. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can in my 2 minutes. I got a lot to cover and a lot to rehash that the VSC's discussed. Few things. You want more accountability, and you can have it. All they got to do is request more than 10% over what they had in budgetary requirements. Then you may put up to 6 more members on the board to oversee that are veterans. As simple as that. And they need to spend more money. It gives the commission all the commissioners' ability to put up to 6 more veterans of any ethnic diversity, age, to do that. The other thing is I was chatting when we found out that Calvin is now the new executive director. We're a little shocked by that. That's the same gentleman yesterday who asked me how much money they should be spending on veterans, and I told him every dime legally possible, and he couldn't believe it. He thought that was absurd. Now that's our new executive director. And it's kind of shameful that is. We thought we were heard yesterday, and that is. I mean, he was personally attacked by the things that we had to say about the VSO. And we told him it wasn't about them personally. It's about the organization. And as simple as the location, it's another, but the ORC is very simple on that too. All they got to do is ask you guys for a new location. And it says in the ORC that you guys will go and find a place for them. Simple as that. And it comes out of the budget of their money. And that misnomer that we don't understand the money stuff. I'm sorry, I didn't go to college on financial stuff, but I understand it was a pie that you were offered, and you only took one piece of that pie and left the rest of the pie. You should have taken the whole pie home. You were offered to take it all home, and then take it home, and then if you don't use the whole pie, then you give it back. Request the max amount you can, then give it back to the general fund once you have everything straightened out. More vans, more VSOs. Like I was telling people, I came from another county. I've only lived here 2 years. You guys now have 3 VSOs and an executive director. I came from a county that served a pittance of the veterans that Hamilton County has. They had 6 VSOs, assistants, and the executive director would step in when needed. She didn't handle regular cases. As for services offered, go on their website. Claims, financial assistance. That's it. There's no, and anything else is just a blank, generic page. The $7,000 they spent on advertising the last budget, they should donate to it to a charity of WCPO's choosing, because they've done more advertising for them than they've done probably in the past 5 years alone. So, as for that, that's pretty much all I got. As for the glasses concern that was brought up, veterans had to be 50% or more disabled to receive glasses from the VA, but the VSO can help the other disabled veterans and any veterans who need glasses. That would be where they come in as a stopgap of what veterans don't get from the VA. That's what they're there for. So I appreciate it. I know I've taken a lot of time here, but I have a whole lot more, and I really appreciate you guys keeping the light on this and accountability.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Learned a lot there. Next, we have Stefan Pryor. I don't know if he's still around. We had to go to, oh, he's still here. Okay.
Good afternoon. Well, from listening to this, man, they need to do more. If the VSC do more to help the community, and the community will get a good response back from the VSC. On Vine Street and Liberty Street, there's a lot of homeless, some of the vets over there too. They need more outreach workers to communicate and talk to them. Set up a face page, social media page, do bulk mailing, connect with the black churches too also, because you got vets in churches too. Don't get the money back, spend all the money and get more money to help other people. But I understand things in life when you do board members, the board members got to get paid. We understand that for the help and the service they do, nonprofit. But help your vets, because these vets been fighting war from day one. And the help they need help now in all departments. The vet places on St. Joseph's on Republican or Pleasant down there. And we know there's a port authority down there too. We understand they don't want too many vets around, but things got to change. This is very serious what's going on in our communities, from the vets, from the community to crime. So, my opinion is they need to do more. Don't get the money back. Spend it all. Make it useful. And now I'm seeing this, you said something about gas and electric, 2,000. That's a lot of electric going on for some veterans. You know, I know they tired and go to sleep, but that's a lot of electric. And glasses, $70, and come on, y'all. We got to do better, y'all, for our vets. Y'all, it's important. I fight for vets. I love my vets. Y'all can't do nothing about it. I love y'all guys, but do better, y'all, VSC. Don't feel guilty either. Let's do it better. Do it with more transparency and communicating. That's all y'all got to do. I'll help y'all if y'all need help. God did that thing. I'll help y'all. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Teresa Kent. Burns. Teresa Burns. She's married now. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Board of Commission, Commissioner Dumas, Vice President Driehaus, and President Madam Alicia Reese, and the rest of the board. I usually don't come up and speak much, but by me being a veteran, I just had to say a few things. I appreciate the VSO. I really appreciate them because they're really out here. They're trying to do what they need to do to help the veterans. The only thing is they need to do more. And I was sitting over there just listening. I just now decided to even come up here to make a comment. First of all, I just became a disabled veteran in 2017, and that was due to the fact that President Obama came out with an additional act which made post-traumatic stress disorder. He added on to it, and I fell in that category, and I went out there, I went and applied, and I got it. But I just wanted to make there, when you become disabled, first of all, everybody served the military regardless. Everybody's a veteran. They raise their right hand and they served, and they got to honorably, you're a veteran. The thing about it, sometimes when we ask for help, you got to be service connected. It's got 10% to 100%. So if a veteran goes to the VSO and they say, I need glasses, and they say, well, go on down there and you can get glasses for free. I believe one thing, they might need to pull out regulations and all that to see what they qualify for so they won't turn them away. Because I have a pair of glasses now. I wouldn't have got these had I not been over 50% service connected. That's one thing that I can see that they can improve on if they are turning them away. And the other thing is, like you said, the marketing and everything. Well, all I got to say is I just thank God for our former president, President Barack Obama, because I had stuff going on with me. I didn't even know what was going on with me until I said, oh, yeah, I have an issue. And I went on down there, and they recognized it, and I'm now service-connected disabled, and that's how I get most of my stuff down at the VA. But I want to just thank, I do want to thank them all for coming out here to speaking, but that's a lot of money being left. And I don't know where it's at, if they turned it in, wherever it's at, it needs to come back, reappear, and help our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Hines. She's on Zoom. I'm sorry. Allison Hines is on Zoom. Can you hear us, Allison Hines?
I can. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So it's just, you can just hear my voice. There's no video. Okay. So Allison Hines, I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, MST survivor, and I am just brand new into the service-connected disability as of this year. I just entered myself into the system for the first time because I always thought that there were veterans that needed it more than I did. And this year I realized that I was one of those veterans. And so I put myself into this system and I started running into roadblock after roadblock, especially after I lost housing and jobs through COVID and my PTSD. So I was also at the meeting yesterday. I am also very familiar with all the news outlets. I used to run a pretty successful butcher shop here in Cincinnati area. And so one of the things that I started realizing yesterday was that one of the things that we need to realize and that we're lacking are the solutions and ways of moving forward. And so as I sat in the meeting yesterday and wrote lots of notes, I also realized that the one thing I think that perhaps the complacency yesterday that I was seeing, you could tell that they cared, but Pam did most of the talking yesterday, Pam and Bill, and they have been there many, many years. And I think the things that we're lacking from that office right now is the human connection. Every one of us veterans has a story, and we need somebody to listen to it. It's not just a list of things. It's not just a list of services. It's how can we manage and navigate through this system? And we just need somebody to listen to us. And I think by perhaps them being overworked or not connecting with humans, I think we're really, really lacking that. So one of the ideas I came up with yesterday was, and some of the things that short term that can really help, I think, are video conferencing. If we have to tell our story over and over and over again, and we have to get in a car to do it, and we have to park, and we have to go downtown, and we have to see all of these people, we have to go through security, perhaps we get with technology. And so any influx of the 2024 budget that could help needs to go into marketing and technology. So video conferencing so that we can have face-to-face, one-on-one, and that perhaps when they do have to refer us to someone outside, they can conference them in and introduce them so we don't have to leave that protective bubble that some of us have to put ourselves in. The next problem that we ran into yesterday was a lot of the VSOs and the board were saying that they just cut checks directly to the veterans so that some of them are just using that money and then come back 3 months later for more rent. Well, if we had a direct billing system that they paid Duke Energy directly, they paid the landlords directly, they paid, the car payments directly, that could eliminate some of that. Because let's be clear, some of us with PTSD, we have substance abuse issues. There's lots of things going on. So a direct billing system could also be a quick fix. Obviously, the transportation is an issue. Social media and the community outreach, I believe, is huge. They need a social media director if you want to see how to do it correctly and turn a hated government institution into somebody that's beloved. Go look at Instagram and the TSA's site. So those are some of the things short term, just training into listening. All of the newer vets, we have new issues. Women, we have more issues than probably most and more complications because we come home and we're mothers and family givers and it's difficult. So those are some of the short-term things within the budget. Some of the long-term things obviously are the location, the appointment process for the board, and the process review for the allocation of funds. I have one question and I will finish. So when we finally realized how the budget worked yesterday, that they can only request 10% year over year of what they had from last year's budget, which means that they are basically hamstrung, and they're only allowed to ask for 10% over last year's budget without triggering extra board members. So my biggest question as we were going through that past conversation was those general funds that are returned if they don't spend them, we all know they need to. However, if they didn't and those general funds are added to next year's budget, are they automatically added above that 10% that's requested? Or is that amount included? And if they are included, does that still trigger the 6 extra board members? So that's my biggest question that I have, and just some short and long-term fixes that I think could really help with some of us out there getting updated with technology and just connecting us human to human. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. That was our, let's make sure, is there any other speaker here for veterans? Are you Dante? Yes, ma'am. Okay, you didn't put that at the bottom. Okay, Dante Carr, I'm sorry.
I just want to say I've been dealing with negative issues from the Veterans Service Commission for over 20-some years, and I am glad that this day has finally come, and hopefully y'all push on forward and get some of these solutions or problems or issues resolved. I have email addresses. I will be contacting each one of you by email to let y'all know how I feel about how the Veterans Service Commission has treated me in my life as an honorably discharged veteran. Thank you.
Thank you very much. William Jackson, are you here for veterans or are you general conversation? General conversation. Okay, we got to hold up. Okay, that was our last speaker for veterans. There was a question on the table. Mr. Ludo, do you want to address her question?
The question was about the mechanics for triggering the additional board members, the alternative board members as defined under the Ohio Revised Code. I'll have to look at that to make completely certain, but I believe that the way the ORC reads it, if their request exceeds 10% of the current year's appropriation, that it triggers that. So I think it's fairly mechanical in that regard. That if there was an additional request from the VSC that exceeded their current year appropriation by more than 10%, regardless of whether it was prior use funds or whatever, that would trigger that alternative section of the ORC. But again, I want to look at that in a little bit more detail and just make sure before I give the board a final answer on that.
And then that would increase board members, but it doesn't do anything for us because we don't make the board.
Actually, in that particular case,
or do we?
The board would appoint those.
Oh, we would have appointments. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we're probably looking at going that way. Before we close out, open it up, Vice President Driehaus, now that you've heard from.
I just want to thank everybody. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your thoughts and your ideas, constructive criticisms. We need to move forward here, and we can't do it without your input. And thanks to the VSC as well for coming in. Again, we have to do this together. So looking forward to moving forward with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dumas.
Thank you. I thank everyone for coming and your hard work. And we have a direction that we need to take and that the VSO needs to take. And also, I will take a look at this. I think your motion includes a lot of things that we've talked about that we need to do. So maybe the next meeting, will we vote on this as a resolution, or how does that go?
I wanted to have you all take a look at it. I like it to be a part of the resolution that we put forward, and that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
There may be some others. I would say maybe, we're getting ready to go into Thanksgiving. Is Thanksgiving 2 weeks from now? So I would say the following week that we're back from Thanksgiving. If you all are okay with that, I'd like to have an update on this.
Sure.
We'd have a resolution, as well as you've talked to the Veterans Services Commission on what they plan on doing. And we should have a corrective action step moving forward. So I would say after Thanksgiving, if we could have that ready to go.
Okay.
I'll just say that Mr. Ludo will give us time to look at it. That's okay.
Yeah. I just think all the input, all the honesty, transparency, and all the work that's been done before now, and that we'll be moving forward in a positive direction.
Yeah. I just want to say I want to thank everyone, and I do want to acknowledge Craig on this particular issue and his background being in the military and his wife. Um, I've learned a lot as well. I think all of us have, and how this is set up, because it's kind of strange when you got the state and then you got the courts make appointments, and then so I think and then learning about the 10% and what authority we have. It has been a great learning experience. The next move now, how do we move forward? I want Mr. Ludo also to look at what other counties are doing. There was some good information that a lot of the speakers brought forward, other counties and things that they're doing creatively. We want to make sure that we don't want someone moving to Hamilton County and say, oh, I get less now because I moved here. We want to make sure that whatever they're offering, if we're legally allowed to offer it, we want to offer it. So I think that's, and it obviously seems that Veteran Services needs some additional staffing because they're doing it with a limited staff as well. So the goal is in 2 weeks, maybe after Thanksgiving, we want to have a corrective action plan and everybody on the same page, move forward, and we'd have hopefully a resolution that we could pass the beginning of no later than the first week of December. Okay. All right, well, everyone, thank you all so much. Thank you, Veteran Services. It was good to meet the board members. I had no idea who you are, so we appreciate it. Thank you for being here. This won't be our last time seeing each other. And thank you to the veterans for your input. And I want to give a special thanks to Bill Forley, because he reached out, I think, to each of us to say, sit down and try to get a good understanding of what's happening. So thank you all for your service, and understand that we are here to service. And I know some of you had some questions. You can see some of the folks in the hallway on your way out. So you can stay, but it's a great meeting, but we got a long meeting ahead. If you got to go, I know you're on meters and those kind of things. We'll take a 2-minute recess to allow the place to clear out. are back in order, back in session. And if my colleagues don't mind, we're gonna go into the public, you don't mind, we go right into our public hearing, and we'll come back to comments later. We have a public hearing today on MSD. It's our second hearing. And Mr. Ludo, did you want to say something first?
No, other than this is our second public hearing for MSD to consider both the operating budget, the capital budget, and also to discuss the rate implications associated with both. And I'll defer directly to Director Christie, if that's okay.
Sounds great. Welcome back.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome back. Good afternoon.
Yes, Commissioners, good afternoon, Administration. I'm Diana Christie, the Director of MSD. I am here on behalf of MSD, as Administrator Ludo just said, to present the 2024 operating budget and capital budget requests, along with a revised rate schedule for the sewer rates beginning in 2024. We have provided budget books that go through the requests in detail. Those are also available to the public on our website. If anyone does not know where to find those, please let me know afterward. I am going to give a presentation that we did last week, generally the same information for those who are here for the first time. I also have with me today Jenny Richmond, our Deputy Director, and Joseph Schuster, our Fiscal Officer. We have a relatively brief agenda, so I will try to stick to that. But before I dive into the numbers, I just want to take note of the responsibility that MSD has in serving our region to protect the environment and public health through the collection and treatment of wastewater and to return clean water to our local rivers and streams. We do this through the operation of 9 treatment plants throughout our service area. You can see here on this map that we show 7 different watersheds. So we have 7 large treatment plants, 2 packaged treatment plants that are in the neighborhoods. We have over 3,000 miles of sewers, and through all of that infrastructure, we collect and treat over 160 million gallons of wastewater every day. Through our consent decree work, we have added green infrastructure. We have about 44 acres of green infrastructure and 9 wet weather facilities. And generally, we hope that most people don't think about what MSD does every day. We provide a vital service. We are, again, protecting the environment and your public health. We operate around the clock every day, treating your wastewater so that generally you, again, don't have to think about what it is MSD does. But today we're here to talk about what that costs to both operate and maintain the assets and the infrastructure that we have. We, as you can see on here, really like to just kind of put into perspective the cost of treating and cleaning the wastewater is for the average single-family household about $630 per year. And if you compare that to many of your other costs, and there is an example of the average US household for their internet and cell service combined in a year. And I also like to say that most of us aren't average, so you may be below that. A lot of people who are older or live on their own may have a much lower sewer bill. But if you're like me and you have teenagers, you probably have both a much higher sewer bill and a higher internet and cell phone bill. So those are just our averages to put, again, that into perspective. So we're here today to talk about our operating and capital budgets. And this is a process that we start early in the year at MSD. I work directly with Joseph and Jenny and all of our divisions. We have 7 divisions, and we really put together our needs at the beginning of the year, looking at what we expect based on our current budget and operations and what we need for the next year. We're really trying to build a budget that balances the growing needs on our services with what the community can afford. We, like many other utilities across the country, have aging infrastructure. That includes sewers that are 100 and 200 years old, and equipment at our facilities that are beyond their useful life, 40 plus 50 years. We have pumps and equipment that take on debris in heavy storms through our combined sewer system that are really, again, running 24/7, and those things take quite a beating on a daily basis, and after 40 or 50 years, absolutely need to be replaced. So our operating budget helps us get ahead of expensive capital repairs or capital replacement through proactive repairs and maintenance. And then we have the competing needs of our consent decree wet weather improvement program, where we are doing continual capital improvements to meet our compliance obligations under the Clean Water Act to reduce and eliminate combined sewer and sanitary sewer overflows. We also are continually looking forward with other regulatory challenges, and we know things that we are facing today, are going to be facing in the future, potentially new regulations with PFAS, which is an area of growing regulatory scrutiny that is going to add cost to our budget. So with all of that, we have put together our 2024 budget request. We have worked with the county administration for months in advance and provided this initially back in August. The full budget breakdown and detail is provided in the budget book, in particular on page 13. We go through each of these requests by division. So for personnel, again, we have 7 divisions, and we have a breakdown of the requested budget as compared to the 2023 budget and the 2022, and for the non-personnel, and as you go down the list. So this is, again, just kind of a higher level look at the budget request, and you can see there that the grand total is $237.9 million. That is just about a 3% increase over the 2023 budget. Breaking that down, our personnel request is $67.7 million. Our non-personnel is $69 million, and our other non-personnel is $6.9 million. We generally take the total of those categories and focus on our overall O&M budget request as a subtotal to compare with prior years. And again, that for this year, as you can see, is $143.7 million approximately, which is just over a 5% increase from 2023. So I'm going to go to the next slide and talk through the increases specifically and what the primary drivers of where you're seeing an increase over 2023. Starting with our personnel. So our personnel budget are the funds needed for the MSD employees. And we are not adding more employees to our TO this year. This is the needed funds to cover the existing personnel. And primarily the drivers here were the compounded effects of cost of living increases that were approved for all of the union employees, all of the bargaining units that we have. And those were approved starting in 2023, and they are for the next several years. So we have a 5% increase, a 4% increase, and a 3%. So again, there's the compounded nature of that really adds up to the increase that you're seeing in our personnel. Our non-personnel increase, little over $3 million this year. Really the same as we talked a lot about this last year in our industry. We're seeing increasing chemical costs, primarily all of our non-personnel budget. As you can see, it's the figure on the right. It's broken down by division, and the largest expenses in our non-personnel budget are in our wastewater treatment, wastewater collection divisions. That is where all of our operations occur. That is all of that proactive maintenance and repair, all the treatment chemicals, all of the power costs to run all of our facilities and our pump stations. So those are the equipment and the chemicals and the various goods and services. Those are the funds that we're purchasing those through, and that's just continued to be inflationary increases generally across the board. So our non-personnel, we also have a small increase, a little over $1 million. This is the category that we have. Our fleet is really the largest driver of the increase here. So MSD fleet includes all of the vehicles that we use for our emergency calls, all of the large equipment that is used for our sewer repair work, cleaning sewers, things like hydro excavators and flush vacs. And we track those, and there's a very detailed analysis in the budget book in terms of the life of our fleet equipment and the replacement needs. And we have several large vehicles that are at the end of their useful life, meaning we're going to continue to pay more in maintenance than we will to replace those at this time. So we have a few of the those large fleet vehicles that are over 300,000 each, and that really makes up a large percentage of that increase. Separately, part of our operating budget includes our sewer backup program. And as mentioned last time, the sewer backup program request for 2024 is staying flat. That is the same as it was in 2023. This is sufficient funding and likely more than sufficient funding for all of the program activities to continue to be fully funded. This is our 24/7 reporting and investigation of any suspected sewer backup or water in basement, the cost for MSD to investigate those, the cleaning services, reimbursement of property damages, and protection from future sewer backups. I did add some additional information on this slide just to explain the table to the right. This is, again, just a snapshot of the program activities for the current year. So we have January through the end of September on this table. And you can see the first section is really focused on the work orders that we take in and the number of those that are eligible. Just wanted to point out that all 1,900 calls that we receive are investigated by MSD crews in person, and an investigation is written up for each of those. But not all of those calls, and in fact, a small number of those were eligible for the sewer backup program. And then the second group here is the prevention program. So this is the portion of the sewer backup program where we where properties that have had more than one sewer backup are eligible for a solution to be designed and installed on their private property. So that is the number of new properties that were protected in that time period. So 46 properties that we worked on, and the cost associated with designing and installing a solution at their home. And we also took in 26 new properties into that program during that time. And then the last two are really just the cost of the claims and the expenses that are incurred in our customer service, the investigation initially, and the cleaning of eligible properties. And just as a reminder, the total on the bottom there is a running total of the entire program costs from inception of the sewer backup program to date. So that's over $150 million. And then you can see just the year-to-date expenses. This slide is just to demonstrate that the last few years we have had lower SBU program costs, and that is really due to some drier weather, really, and not any of the really large extreme storms that have really cost a lot more money about 4 or 5 years ago. So we understand that if we were to have that and we needed additional funds, the board has provided that in the past as needed. So moving to the capital program, the capital program is always presented as a 5-year planning update. So it's a capital improvement plan for 5 years. The request will only include appropriation of dollars for 2024. So the 2024 CIP budget is a little over $260 million. The appropriation upon passage, though, is only for those projects listed in Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Exhibit A are all of the planning and design and easement costs needed for projects. So there's 33 projects. And then Exhibit B are construction allowances. So these are funds that allow us to do emergency work and perform really as needed and critical asset management and asset repairs through those allowances. The balance of the 2024 CIP are for 6 construction projects totaling $176 million that will not be appropriated upon passage. That those dollars will only be approved by the board when we come back with individual project requests for funding to move to construction. And as we discussed last time, again, of those 6 construction projects in the 2024 budget, almost all of those dollars are attributed to one project that will be advancing to construction towards the end of 2024. That is the Little Miami Solids and Odor Control Project, and it is the anaerobic digester and the accompanying facility upgrades to modify the solids process at that facility and our East Side facilities. The good thing with that project is we are exploring funding opportunities both through the state revolving loan program and also through the Inflation Reduction Act through the IRS that allows us to get a reimbursement potentially up to $50 million for the clean energy component of that project. I did modify the slide, the figure on the left. I had previously shown the breakdown of the projects for 2024 based on the asset management and WIP categorization, WIP being the consent decree projects. As we talked through it, really felt that the one project that was driving that to be skewed so far in the WIP category was the Little Miami Solids project, which has such a overlap between the two, between the potential to get credit for those dollars through the consent decree, through the WIP, and the needed asset management benefit that it provides, that we really can't put it in one column or the other. So for 2024, and it really is premature because we don't have the next phase of the consent decree approved. So really at this time, those categories are more fluid on many projects in terms of, are those dollars on the consent decree or are those dollars for asset management? That project in particular is has a very significant amount of facility upgrades and improvements that will improve odor control and overall efficiency at that project. So again, squarely in both categories. And then generally wanted to just note the 5-year plan and also wanted to address a few of the comments that came up in the last hearing. When we look at the overall 5-year plan and where we are going, this is something that's updated annually. So we're continuing to move forward with all the projects that have already been approved in various stages. We are managing over $1 billion of projects now. Some of those will be closed out and new projects will be coming in the planning and design phase. So those projects are carried out over several years. And as part of that, we really are focused on the risk-based prioritization of our asset management needs, but we are planning for the next phase of the wet weather improvement program. So we have a few projects that are for the phase 2A included in the 2024 and in the overall capital program. And then we have very specific foundational projects for the phase 2B, even though that is still under development. Those projects are included in the 5-year program. And because those projects that we have been working together, the county and MSD, are large, costly projects that are the high rate treatment and pump station projects, they don't leave a lot of room currently for us to include a lot of other projects in terms of, without really kind of being beyond what we have determined is affordable at this time. So it doesn't mean that we don't have other projects that will potentially come into the next phase of the WIP, but at this time, what we have included are those foundational phase 2B projects. I also wanted to point out, because it's not really identified in the presentation, but the CIP includes various projects that are in the planning phase, including planning allowances. And through those, in that planning phase of projects, and there's several in particular, is when we look at the most cost-effective solution to the need that we have identified with that project. So some of the projects that are sewer replacement projects, there are opportunities in there for us to evaluate sewer separation, to get the stormwater out of the sewer, in addition to improving the condition of the combined sewer. And so therefore addressing those objectives to look for sewer separation where it's cost effective to address our capital needs. In addition, with any sewer separation project, one of the tools and components of that could be green infrastructure on a given project or on a given site. So again, there's specific projects in the CIP where that will be part of the planning. There's also a general CIP planning allowance that looks at that larger strategy, and that is where we're really hoping to identify more projects that will, be in the CIP as we move forward with the next phase of the consent decree. And lastly, I'd like to present the revised rate schedule. Again, the board was provided with the request specifically and how that is structured, but MSD does recommend a 3% increase to the current schedule of service charges for 2024 to meet the district revenue requirements. This increase does cost the average single-family residential household an additional $1.50 per month, or about $18 per year. I just added a comment in there because it is hard to speak to everyone. Everyone's bill is a little bit different. None of us really are going to meet that average. But for example, one thing that you should keep in mind is most of us get our bill from, most of our customers get their bill from Greater Cincinnati Water Works. Your water and sewer make up the total, but the schedule when we're talking about MSD rates and increasing the MSD charge 3% is separate from the water charge, and your water bill, if you are billed by Greater Cincinnati Water Works, has a 5% increase that was approved. I think it's 5.5%. So when you look at your total, you may see something different than what we're talking about here today, which is the sewer rates. And some of our customers are billed by other entities. They may have stormwater on their bill as a separate item. They may have trash on their bill as a separate item. So we really are speaking about the sewer service charge specifically. And when you look at your total, that's not going to be the same as just that sewer service charge. I just was sharing some information, and we discussed this last time about overall inflation and the need for MSD to keep our revenue adequate so that we can provide the services that we're required to provide. And one last thing I just wanted to mention and remind folks that we do have a customer assistance program for low-income seniors who may be on a fixed income. That program provides for a 25% discount, again, on your sewer charge only on your bill. And we have over 2,000, maybe close to 3,000 customers in that program today that are receiving that discount. So with that, I was not quick enough, but I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for specifying on the billing part, the $1.50. I put a call out there. I put a challenge. I still haven't gotten one call. Show me your bill where you only got $1.50 extra, because like you said, it starts to add up. But when you look at if it's I guess if you're in the city of Cincinnati and you've got Waterworks on with your MSD bill, you're looking at almost an 8% increase based on 5% you just mentioned from your water and 3% from us. So that's 8%, almost 10% more. So just wanted to highlight that. But I'll open it up, Vice President Driehaus or Commissioner Dumas, if you all want to say something, or do you want to go straight to the...
To go straight to comments.
Okay. So, Commissioner Dumas, is that okay? Okay. First speaker is Marilyn Wall. And Marilyn, do you have no, this is Larry. Did she bring this for Larry?
No.
Larry, do you have something in writing you want to make for the record?
Did give you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to acknowledge that you have something in writing for the record.
Yes, my name is Marilyn Wall, and I thank you for holding a second public hearing on this important issue. And I'll try to keep my comments brief because you'll have the mayor in writing. But just to summarize, this CIP reflects a number of new projects or new phases of projects and a sizable amount of spending. It doesn't include, though, some of the past approvals that are still going on or are reflected in the numbers that Director Christie just showed. But so we don't really know exactly how much we're going to be spending in 2024.
And I have not been able to find any documentation of any de-legislation of any projects that are not planned to go forward or have been changed or didn't need as much money. So it's a little hard to tell exactly what the actual expenditures would be in the new year. There are not very many capital projects that are consent decree projects, which of course is due to the delays in getting an approved plan, and the Phase 2B plan isn't due until June of next year. So one thing we would like is a date certain when a draft of the Phase 2B plan will be available to the public for comment, and when there'll be comprehensive financial reports made publicly available that include cost expenditures, milestones, and completion dates, and so on. MSD used to provide a lot of this information in monthly reports on the website, but has not done so in recent years. And some of this information used to also be in rate studies, which MSD declined to provide their rate study for us this year. And there's certain facts about the rates and how much is going to be spent, what the outlook is for future years that are important for ratepayers to know what that expectation is. And we really think that MSD should be able to provide that to us, or at least as much as they possibly can. We'd like to have more transparency as well on alternatives analysis and knowing where projects are so that people can look up easily and tell what's going on in their neighborhood or projects that they're concerned about. We'd like to see MSD looking more at climate impacts when selecting alternatives, and also look at long-term and short-term energy cost, particularly looking at stormwater versus some of the gray infrastructure. And certainly we're glad that MSD is looking at PFAS, but there are also other toxics and problem pollutants like phosphorus, nitrogen, road salt, and so on. And the MSD has pointed out itself that there are still areas, even in the Little Miami River watershed, which is considered one of the cleanest, that are not safe for full human contact. And so I'll leave the rest of my comments to the written comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Park.
Good afternoon. Robert Park. I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club. According to MSD, unlike other cities, there is no stormwater utility in Cincinnati or Hamilton County whose mission is comprehensive stormwater management. Is this true? This is an amazing situation if it's true. It appears that flooding in low areas or overland flooding from hills is unregulated and systematic prevention is unfunded, except for projects and spending by MSD to comply with the consent decree, which only requires keeping stormwater out of sanitary sewers. Based on MSD maps, in the entire downtown and uptown areas between I-75 and I-71, that's north of the banks, all stormwater ends up in sanitary sewers, just about all, which overflow into Mill Creek and the Ohio River under storm conditions. These maps show sensitive infrastructure and are not for public distribution, but we would be happy to share our findings with you and interpret them if you're interested and if it's appropriate. Furthermore, keeping stormwater out of sewers, if anything, will make flooding worse. It's got to go somewhere. Climate change will certainly create dramatically increasing stormwater emergencies in the decades to come. Current sewer charges are based on potable water consumption and are regressive for two reasons, which have been contentious for years. First, there's a high minimum charge for most single-family residences. They pay $500 a year based on more water than they actually use. And secondly, there's a 20% discount for big users, for corporate, institutional, and commercial users. If I could just make a brief comment on the stormwater fee issue, which is coming up. There's two problems with the proposed stormwater fee. It is based only on impervious areas of properties, even though Peak runoff occurs after several days of rain from the entire property as the area becomes saturated. Secondly, it's a tiered rate structure, and the highest tier combines all larger properties into one tier. So there's a lot of big properties that are not being charged their fair share. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrea Baker.
Good afternoon, President Reese, Vice President Dumas, and Commissioner. In 2019, the board approved funding for a project of interest to KUFA, the Ludlow Run Sustainability Source Control Project. The Ludlow Run project is still in the pre-planning stages, originally anticipated to be completed in 2022. Unfortunately, it looks like the planning will not be completed until 2024, at the earliest, making the planning stage at least 5 years ongoing. For context, the project was initially considered by MSD in 2012, more than a decade ago. We're talking about a street where people live with CSO and raw sewage and flowing creeks in their backyard, while MSD takes more than a decade to have a plan for a solution, much less to begin the work. KUFA recommends the Ludlow Run project be put on an expedited timeline and that the board holds MSD accountable to deadlines to see this project through. We also, KUFA, encourages the board to scrutinize heat map data from MSD about where complaints occur and are addressed and the criteria they use for choosing new source control projects to alleviate sewer backups. Furthermore, KUFA recommends a capital improvement project to upgrade the sewers in the Hewitt Crescent area of Evanston. And I do have our proposal right here. May I approach?
Yes, give it to the clerk. Thank you. And Commissioner Driehaus is our vice president.
That's
right?
all right. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's hard to keep up with us. I tell you, I know. But thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. No worries.
President Alicia Reese, Vice President Denise Driehaus, and Commissioner Stephanie Dumas. Thank you for your
Most
time.
importantly, we have your testimony. So
Yes.
that's the most
Thank
important thing for us to have right. Thank you so much. Wanda Ball.
Good afternoon. To show you where I'm stuck. Sorry. It's been a long day. My name is Wanda Ball. I am a senior, so I fall into your preferred group. I am a ratepayer, I am a voter, and I am a member of Communities United for Action, KUFA. In 2019, KUFA requested that MSD make a project groundwork dashboard that is user-friendly, and that would connect the residents to the information that they need to know about the status of the WIP in their neighborhood. MSD at that time told KUFA that they could not make some of our suggested improvements due to constraints of their website and a lack of funding for sophisticated technology. And that would make the dashboard easily searchable and interactive for residents. KUFA is dismayed that while the upgrades have been completed, MSD did not implement our suggestions to increase transparency. The commissioners supported our requests and they agreed to fund the upgrade of the MSD dashboard. We can no longer find the project groundwork dashboard on MSD's website at all since the upgrades have been made. KUFA is recommending that the board include in MSD's budget the necessary resources to implement a searchable, user-friendly project dashboard on MSD's website for reporting to the public the status, the cost, and the expected outcomes of all WIP groundwork projects, along with follow-up procedures to assure that the requested changes have been made and are satisfactory and that they are usable. Second request is that we do not want a rate increase at this time. We want the commissioners to wait until they receive the report from the Impervious Stakeholders Group, which is a group of stakeholders that was commissioned by the commissioners. And we want you to accept their recommendations, and we want you to make sure that MSD implements those recommendations. Bottom line is the process should be in place before MSD is allowed to increase our rates. Also, since Ms. Christie mentioned the Customer Assistance Program, the Customer Assistance Program, while it is great, we wanted to do more. At this time, the Customer Assistance Program can include seniors that pay their water bill but are tenants, that are renters. And we would like for that to be expanded to include all those people that they can include now. Although we realize, though, that the Customer Assistance Program is so narrow in its in who is allowed to receive the benefits. 3,000 people is very, very minuscule about the number, when you take into consideration the number of seniors who qualify with those strict constraints. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Croft.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
MSD Mill Creek Community Advisory Panel recommends approval of MSD's proposed 2024 budget. We've seen a significant decline in complaints in the last 5 years, or in the past 3 years compared to previous years. However, the uptick in complaints in the past year due to blown electrical transformer points out the need to focus on big projects related to odor control. In the case of the blown transformer, we had a big discharge of untreated water and a costly scramble to get the whole plant back online. The dewatering building replacement project in the 2019 master plan project that must be given the highest priority. The existing building and equipment is worn out and inadequate. The plan included its construction to begin in 2023. A BCE for a design of a $2.5 million odor control patch was approved in 2020. This small project has been pushed back several times. It's not scheduled for construction until 2027. As to the big dewatering building project itself, the proposed 2024 CIP budget includes construction commencing in 2028 with completion in 2031. Any further delays in projects relating to the dewatering system should not be tolerated. Another project that needs close attention is the Little Miami Anaerobic Digester, which is scheduled for construction this year, or this coming year. The project is critical to diversify Hamilton County's disposal capacity, and especially to ensure no trucking to Mill Creek's incinerators. Those incinerators are operating at effective capacity and are nearing their useful half-life. Just one last sentence. I second Marilyn Wall's comment last week and again this week that we need a full public review of MSD's proposal for the EPA consent decree phase 2B with ample time before its due date. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Jean Hall.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
President, Vice President, Commissioner. I once again come in your face asking you for help. And since I've been down here, nothing has been done. I went to the city budget meeting Everyone acted as if they were so willing to help Evanston put together a project to repair the pipelines throughout Evanston. The whole community is busted throughout. We've been told by the city workers over and over, we don't want no more Band-Aids, we don't want no more sleeves. We want these pipelines repaired. As I just heard Diane Christie reply to, they repair pipelines every 40 years. I live on Hewitt Crescent. Our street haven't been blacktopped in over 40 years. Our pipes have not been replaced in over 200 years. So now that I continue coming down here, not just from my street, but from my whole community, please help us. People are getting sick in their homes. The gassy fumes coming up through the pipeline, sewage, it's beyond ridiculous. Our houses just on Hewitt Crescent on the one side is sliding. And it's going, thank God, at a very slower pace compared to 7 years of fighting for this. However, since I went to the budget meeting for the city did get MSD out there weekly. They were coming out there, they found out, oh yes, they flushed the sewer lines. The water is not even making it from Wanna-Hill School, from the top of Hewitt to where we stand at the bottom, where the manholes sit in our backyards. When they flush, the water is not even making it to our manholes because they're busted throughout the community. When they came in and flushed, they wonder why the water isn't coming through. They hired a chemical truck to come and remove all the debris that was surrounded inside these sewer lines. Once they came and removed, they had to chemical clean all this residue on the inside of pipelines. Once they did that, they came back and said, we're amazed. We did not know when we cleaned these sewer lines, the water is still not making it to the manhole. It's spilling out on your properties. That's why all y'all hillsides are sliding. We need our homes. They're affordable homes for us. I can't afford to live anywhere else. My neighbors don't want to be able to have to sell their homes to move somewhere else. We want our neighborhood fixed. And it's just not Hewitt Crescent. We're the end of the street of the neighborhood. Please help us. Please do not increase our sewer rates with these sewers giving us problems like this. Please, if you could please, it's been 7 years that I've been fighting for this. If you could please put us in the capital budget plan for MSD to have this work done. We have spoken with the United States EPA, has been trying to work with us. They're trying to help us get some of the work done, but we need our city to help us get all the work done. And just like for all the veterans, my heart goes out to each and every one of them. But for the last 7 years, I've been at war. I've been at war with my own city, fighting to protect our homes and our neighborhood. This is a war battle that I cannot control. Please allow MSD to put us in the capital plan budget this 2024. Please consider our neighborhood. Please consider our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
don't mean to be.
No.
This is very frustrating.
That's why I let
7
you. Yeah.
And all I do is get the runarounds, get this word, we're going to help you here, we're going to help you there. But then nobody wants to help. And it's so embarrassing to where I felt like I was a victim in my own neighborhood. I feel like people was wanting to kill me, to shut my mouth, to stop talking about this. When somebody in their own neighborhood got to keep looking back because the city of Cincinnati is not doing anything to protect us and help us, they want me out of here. They don't want to see me speaking. They don't want me to say a word. They want me to let this go. Please stand with us. Stand with our community. You all are here for Cincinnati. Y'all love our city just as much as I do. I love my neighborhood. And please let us continue to stay in our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is Janine Nightingale. Did I say that right? Oh, you're a lefty kid. Well, I'm about to say, we solved something today. You walking.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Jean Nightingale.
Jean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm a volunteer also at the Sierra Club and a representative to MSD's Impervious Surface Fees Stakeholder Working Group. I'm here today, though, as a concerned citizen, and I've been watching these reports, budget reports. I'm just surprised that relatively so little funding is dedicated to green infrastructure as a solution to these intersecting challenges of climate change and aging sewers. According to EPA, green infrastructure is an approach to water and sewer management that, quote, is designed to mimic the natural ways water flows over and absorbs into the land to reduce stormwater pollution. It captures the rain where it falls and uses natural elements such as soil and plants to turn rainfall into a resource instead of a waste. It also increases the quality and quantity of local water supplies and provides many other environmental, economic, and health benefits, often in nature-starved urban areas. The best cost-effective model for net zero water systems here in Cincinnati can be found right here at the Cincinnati Zoo, the greenest zoo in America. Stormwater retention tanks buried under the Rue Valley hold 500,000 gallons of water, enough to provide most of the water that's used in habitats and pools around the zoo. And these projects have been cost-effective. They saved the zoo millions of dollars. Massive stormwater retention tanks will soon be installed under the new Elephant Trek, and to increase storage capacity by 1 million gallons, enough to satisfy all the zoo's water needs. So they've proven that it really saves them a lot of money. Other older cities around the U.S., such as Toledo, Ohio, and Albany, New York, are turning to green infrastructure as a way to complement their current water systems and make their cities more resilient for the future. So there's a lot of these projects also include collaborative educational components, especially in low-income areas, and many of these cities are using grass swales along roadways and between properties to reduce these stormwater flow. And so we have a lot to learn, I think, from these other cities, these old cities like our own, and even from our municipal zoo, how to build a resilient city for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our final speaker on this subject matter. Is there anybody else here to speak on this subject matter? Did you fill out a card? Okay. Are you Bonnie? Okay, all right. Ms. Bonnie at the bottom. I'm sorry, I didn't say. This is trying to get in the budget plan. Okay. Bonnie Hightower.
Good afternoon, all. I'm just touching a little on what Jean talked about. I live on here at Crescent too. I've been there for almost 6 years, and I'm one of the ones to live in a house right down in the middle where I have all the gas rooms. Literally, when I have people over at my house, they come in, and a lot of times they ask, are y'all cooking children's? Are you cleaning children's? That's the type of smell we get in my house. And I have reached out to MSD about getting somebody, down to flush the system out. Last night, they came out, but he said there was nothing they could do. I'm like, if you go to the top of the hill and just flush it out, we wouldn't get that smell. But they refused, they didn't, so I was left to continue to pour the solution that they gave me, the purple stuff. Mix it with water and constantly, I have a water hose down the basement, so the water could just constantly run through. But back in the summertime, I videotaped every time they had that truck out there doing work. I was videotaping, and the indicator found right in front of my house on the opposite side of the sidewalk. it indicated different pictures of pipes and stuff that had busted. So when it got to the regular picture that I was looking at, I'm like, is this what I'm really looking at? What I'm seeing is this poop? And he said, well, this is what the indicator found. You know, there's a pipe busted here. But right directly in front of my driveway, there was nothing but like somebody dumped a whole bunch of toilets right in front of my door. But those fumes I'm getting up through my house. And they tell me to get have somebody do a smoke test to make sure there's nothing blocking in my sewer. But we just recently had a plumber come out and do a snake. He snaked it out. He said, I went out 50 feet. He said, I'm gonna get another snake to add on to go out further. They done went out all the way out to 75 to 125 feet out. I said, my house don't go out that far. He said, this is an issue for MSD or Waterworks. There's nothing else I can do. You know, I done snaked it out. It's not clogged up under here, but the gases are coming in from somewhere, and it's bad. My mom, she went to the hospital on the 16th. She's been gone from the 16th. I have not had my mom to cough since she's been at the hospital. She have not did all the crazy coughing. So I know it's something in my house. And I'm like, we need to get on that plan to have them fix whatever it is. You know, the pipes up under there. I have tons of footage. You know, if need be, I can bring down here again so everybody can look at it. I looked at some of the pictures they showed on there. Where the pipes, I actually seen this when they had the cameras going up underground, seeing where, you know, the pipes was busted, all the water just seeping out. But they say it's under my house. My house doesn't go that far out. So somebody's not telling me, you know, something right, and there's nothing I can do. I can't hire these people to come and dig up my yard, especially where they saying dig it. That's not even my yard. So we do need help, as Jean said. So if we can get the help, trust me, I know we need it down on here at Crescent. Bad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Later. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was trying, I'm sorry. Thank you. That was the last speaker of this, hearing. I'll open it up, Vice President Driehaus.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming in. It's good to see everyone. So we heard about a number of different projects, and I am going to ask some questions from Director Crispy about these projects, as we've been hearing about these for years, and I'm hoping that we can shed some light on, or at least provide an update on some of what we're hearing. So the one, and Tom Croft offered some testimony verbally, but he also sent some written testimony. I just want to point that out. I hope everyone has that. So he talked about the Mill Creek and the odor control. And years ago, we passed a zero tolerance policy for odor at the Mill Creek. And my recollection is we legislated for projects down there. And Tom has indicated that there's been a significant delay. Help us understand. And to the point, I don't remember who raised it. It would be so much simpler if there was some kind of metrics, and I don't know if it's on the website or not, but we've been talking about these projects for 7 years since I've been here. So it would be so helpful just for people's knowledge base to have Mill Creek odor control and what's been legislated and where we are, the time frame, and Ludlow Run and what's been legislated, and Hewitt Crescent. So let's, and I don't mean to take up a lot of time, but we've had a lot of concerns here, and we've legislated money for these things, for these projects. So I'm confused as to why we're still hearing about the delay.
Sure. Let me let Jenny speak to the Mill Creek odor control projects, because she's participated on the recent CAP committee and explain a bit about the status of those, and then I'll talk about Ludlow.
Good afternoon. So from my understanding, everything that was originally, the projects, the odor control projects that were originally talked about 7 years ago, they were small individual projects, that those were completed at the time. And as time has continued, any new project that we are doing at Mill Creek will include odor control. So we're in the middle of a pump station project currently. Well, that larger project will have odor control in it. So we're not doing individual odor control projects anymore. We've finished the ones that were identified years ago. And now as we move on to the next phase of any new projects, odor control is a big part of those projects. So it's not that you'll see any more individual odor control projects called out specifically, but know that they are included in those. And the dewatering project is one of them that there is significant. And we've done a lot of process control that has changed the way odor is processed as well. So that's where we've seen the decline in some of the odor complaints over the time. Like Mr. Croft mentioned, when we did have our power outage, obviously we didn't have any equipment running, so we did have an uptick, a small uptick during that time, but nothing significant.
So let's talk, thank you for that.
Sure.
Let's talk about Ludlow Run. That was another one that my recollection is we legislated that one as well.
So the Ludlow Run project is it is a wet weather project through the consent decree, and there was money. I suppose that the planning dollars were legislated in 2019. I know that the planning activities really didn't begin until at least a year or so after that. I'm not exactly sure the timing, but I know that this current status and really the last year and a half, almost 2 years, has been the addition of flow monitors and into our system to really get a better sense of what the scope of the problem is at those. It's several CSOs along the Ludlow Run, leading down to one larger CSO. So that project involves a significant amount of modeling and flow monitoring. In order to do that work, we need multiple seasons to monitor the wet weather, to identify the scale of any capital improvements that need to be made. And over the last year and a half, we really haven't had a lot of significant rainfall. So just over time, it really needs to have a good amount of time to monitor that. So again, addition of flow monitors into our system, several seasons of rainfall, and then you take that data, calibrate that data, and then determine the appropriate scope of any capital solution. It was something that was identified early in the phase one, but not to any, there wasn't really any of that data collected to identify the scope of the problem and any potential solution. So that's, I understand that perhaps there were delays in getting started, but really for the last year and a half, there's been continuous flow monitoring and modeling work on that. And we do expect a report either the end of this year or in the first quarter of next year to tell us what solutions are being suggested there.
Okay, so at least an end in sight on that one. And then Hewitt Crescent, I've heard about Hewitt Crescent before. I just want to get an update related to this because I know this has been on our radar before.
Yeah, so first let me just also comment on the suggestion on the dashboard. I'd like to talk with the folks that brought that up. We do have a pretty, what I think is, a interactive dashboard on our new website where you can search through a map, and you can either just visually look at an area on the map and select a project. You can search by street name or CSO, and then that pulls up the basic data on that. To get more information on that project, really, that is something that you need to then contact us to perhaps get more about the status of it. But we have an interactive dashboard now that's on our website if you go to projects, and it's project dashboard. So I'm not sure what other features they'd like to see on that, and if we could build that in, or if it's really just kind of understanding once you drill it down to a certain extent, then you're going to have to contact us to get additional information, which can be provided upon request for any particular project. So I'd like to follow up with them on that.
I think, yeah, because we were hearing that information was not being provided on request. So yes, I think a
Yes.
follow-up.
So I'd like to follow up with them on that in particular. And I know that Jenny can speak to Hewitt Crescent as well. She and I have both personally been out to Miss Hill's property, and several times. I've been out there once, but others have been out there many times, including, of course, our crews, as you heard. And Jenny can speak to a little bit more of the engineering on this, perhaps. But we have not identified any MSD capital solutions or needs to the problems that are, that they're experiencing on their property. Whether it's related to a private sewer issue or, in some cases, stormwater impacts and erosion from being on the hillside that they're on. But Jenny, if you can add to that from the technical side.
So, like Director Christie said, I have been out to that site, and I've talked to Ms. Hill several times. Initially, the issue was that her house was sliding, that she had a significant hillside slippage behind her home. And what her engineer stated was that it was due to our sewers. And from the information that their engineer provided versus with the information that we actually have, and when we were out on site with many city departments, the conclusion was that it was not due to the MSD sewers. Now, I also know Ms. Hightower has had several complaints about odors in her home as well. And when we go out there, we are looking at what the odors are within our sewers and the public side of it, and we don't see the odors on our meter readers. So I can definitely reach out to Ms. Hightower again. I know that our crews have been out there. I don't know of them flushing the sewers, and I can also speak with our collection division to see if they TV'd, when's the last time they've TV'd this, because I don't know of any specific areas that have significant structural issues with the sewers that would be causing issues downstream. But I'll definitely reach out to them. I can't tell you specifically what any issues are right now. Okay.
I guess it's not helpful to have the one person say that it's in the public side, the other person says it's on the private side, and then the homeowner's left to say, I don't know what to do about this. I mean, what's the resolution of that? So maybe some cooperation with those two opinions might be helpful, because the homeowner's left to kind of holding the bag, right?
So I did reach out to the structural engineer that she had hired about the hillside slippage. Unfortunately, that engineer has left that firm, so I can't speak to him directly. And when they did create that report, they did not reach out to MSD as far as what type of history we had on any of our sewers. They made some rather large assumptions on the status of our sewers. So we had differing base information.
So differing opinions, but you're not standing there at the same time. So maybe there could be some cooperations to get some resolution or some idea of what the solution might look like. And I have other questions. I'm going to, though, not ask them right now. I'll save them for the second round.
Okay. Can I just say something on that issue? Because we keep hearing about this this is 7 years, and we say we're in the same room. And as much as I love Ms. Hall, I'm not MSD. So coming to us, and you guys obviously work for the city, we own the utility. I want some resolution. So as y'all leaving out the door, y'all need to be seeing and talking to each other, because we're in the same building, in the same room, going back to emails. And I also think that it's a kind of a reoccurring theme, whether it's Evanston residents in Kufa here, or whether it's Maryland and what she's saying. We were supposed to have a dashboard, but you got a dashboard that only gives out some information, but now you got to call you to get more. I wasn't here, but I think the intent of the dashboard, so they don't have to call you. They want to be able to see it for themselves, not have to get an appointment. The same way with what's going on with Evanston. It seems like, it's always, we've been out there with it. go to the whole street. I like all the residents. I like to see a report. Knock on the door and ask them, is it a smell in here? And I know we all got our own noses. You might be able to smell it yourself. I'm not sure. But it just been going on too long, and it keeps being kind of, I don't know, maybe it's the technical terms. You know, maybe you didn't call it the right name, but it's this name. I mean, the taxpayers are paying for MSD to work for them, just like, you know, they're paying us. And I'm just kind of frustrated as well. And then we got this dashboard that was supposed to, well, let's talk about it. And wasn't here, but I think the intent, Vice President.
It was to
Trios,
provide
for it
information.
to be transparent, and they can go and get the information without having to call anybody.
These projects take years to complete. It's helpful for the residents to know what year are we in, what's been legislated, and what should we expect.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I just want to, you know, I know you want to meet with them for clarification, but my clarification is they like to do something where they ain't got to call you. They want to see it for themselves. So Commissioner Dumas, and unfortunately, I guess the way our system is set up, I know y'all got your hands up, but it's not, you've had your time to speak, but they will be gathered outside in the hallway. You can ask them questions. Commissioner Dumas.
Thank you. Just a couple comments. People are suffering, and I keep hearing when the MSD goes out, it's not MSD. You know, it's like you throw a rock and put your hand behind your back, and then maybe it's not MSD. But how do we help these people that are suffering? My question is, you know, I know what the consent decree says and what projects we're working on. And so you did go out and check this out in Evanston, but at what point do we add additional projects? I mean, you know, this was 7, 8, I mean, the consent decree was years and years ago. But, you know, how do we look at projects that are in need right now? I'm gonna speak specifically to the budget because I could go on and on about MSD. But the operating budget, I noticed, Diana, there was a difference between non-personnel and other non-personnel, which the other non-personnel was almost 23.4% of this budget. And I'm trying to think, what is other non-personnel? I know you were saying non-personnel is chemicals, equipment. What is the 6.9 million for the other non-personnel? What does that include?
Yeah, so the other non-personnel is actually a small portion of the overall budget. It's just that category of costs. The increase was a larger percentage. So it is 6.9 million, so almost 7 million of the overall $237 million budget.
What is it?
But other non-personnel are 3 things. So it's our fleet, which I spoke of, which is kind of the large thing. So all of our fleet falls into that. The OTEA is Office Technology Equipment Allowance. So that's any type of capital equipment purchase for our offices, computers, furniture. And that's that amount is not going up this year. So it's $1,225,000, which is the same as it was last year. And then it also includes the general fund overhead budget, which is the amount paid. We pay some overhead to the county too, but this in particular is to the city. And that is a formulaic amount that is through our governance agreement that we pay the city for services where we use the city's financial department and lots of other things. So that is the other non-personnel. So whereas the larger category of non-personnel are all the divisional costs other than the people, so all of the chemicals and those kind of things.
We're paying the city for the non-personnel part you were just mentioning.
The general fund overhead amount for 2024 is $2,700,000.
And so the fleet is not inclusive of the 69 million under non-personnel. Is that inclusive?
Correct.
Or is it down at, okay.
It was in that other, yeah. So the fleet amount is the largest increase. That's really where all the increase is. So the others did not increase. Fleet, we're requesting $2,475,000, and in 2023 we only had $1,816,000. So again, it's really just to fund some pretty large equipment replacements in 2024. If those are deferred, we just incur additional maintenance costs.
Okay. You also mentioned the last time you were here about SVU, and I was saying that we never used that amount, and you said earlier today that 11.2 is efficient. What did you say? And you said last time, any reduction is fine. You didn't say any. You said reduction is fine as it relates to the SVU allocation of 11.2. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is the possibility that we may want to reduce it to 9 million, because you were saying it was sufficient. We don't always use all of that money. I know you were saying about the weather dictates that and all of that, but we could reduce that. SVU 11.2. Is that what you said last?
I think I said, yes, it's based on the recent trends, it would be a low risk to reduce it, knowing that, or with our understanding that if we did have significant wet weather and those costs went up, that the board would provide funding at that time. So, you know, this is, it does fluctuate. The number of properties that could potentially have damage claims, you know, is unpredictable. And
we're not reaching too many properties anyway with that SVU. But you were saying it would be a low risk if we reduced it. That's what I was just hearing you say. Yes or no?
Yes, I mean, it's a low risk because I think if we need more, if we have a significant, you know, year of wet weather.
You will be back if you need more. But let me just look at this. The CIP,
yes,
2023, and we had 140.5 million. And I think you have a typo for 2024. You had 260.3 million. Is that a typo?
No, that is correct.
That is correct?
Yes.
Oh, I'm being a little sarcastic here because you did indicate it's an 85% increase.
Yes.
And then you were also saying a 3% increase for our residents, a rate increase, possibly. So I guess I'm asking you if there was not an 85% increase. I know you're trying to do your job and complete those projects. What could you live with in the CIP? We have 260.3. What could you live with? What could your agency live with to do the work you need to do for 2024 and maybe possibly allocate more in 2025?
Yes, so the important thing on the 2024 capital budget request is that you really have to look at it in chunks. Well, really, so the initial appropriation by the board would be 84 million of that 260, and almost the entire balance of that is for one project. So the one project that goes to construction in 2024 is the Little Miami Solids and Odor Control Project, and it is approximately $174 million. What the CIP, what this isn't showing you is where those funds come from. So when we come back to the board to request the $174 million for construction funding, and the board would have to appropriate those dollars, we
eventually.
Yes. However, that is where we are looking at the available financing through the State Revolving Loan Fund, and there's a reimbursement. So there's a pretty significant amount of that money that would not be, or it would, correct. So so that 260 it's a very large increase over past years. The rest of the projects in that outside of that Little Miami are almost entirely the critical work we do to just kind of continue to rehab our sewers, maintain our facilities. We have critical purchases that are capitalized, and of course the ongoing planning and design work for all the future projects. So those are the dollars that are appropriated in that 84 million, and I don't think, you know, we've heard and we understand that their needs really are great in terms of maintaining those assets. So.
And I agree that the needs are great, and I'm sure you're trying to meet a timetable that we're a little bit behind on already. So I just have a little difficulty with that increase. And just lastly, I heard about the green infrastructure, and I totally agree that that's needed, but there is a lot of federal monies. A lot of federal money is available for green infrastructure, just for whoever's listening. And maybe we need to tap into the the feds to try to get some of that money, because we obviously don't have a lot of extra money, but it's extremely important that we look at green infrastructure. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vice President Dreehouse. You had some other questions.
All right, so round two, and I'll try to be brief. I just do have a lot of questions prompted by mostly the folks in the audience. Last week, I did ask about green infrastructure and what projects MSD was looking at by way of green infrastructure. This board has, and I don't know if the current board, but previous boards for sure, have talked a lot about green infrastructure, maybe as an alternative or at least an add-on to some of the work we're doing to try to reduce some of the storm water challenges we've got in this community. Want to thank MSD, Stormwater Management, both city and county, engineer's office, for all coming together to say, hey, we've got some projects that maybe we could move forward with if we got some federal funding. So we're going collectively after the federal dollars in the BRIC category in particular to try to draw down some of that funding. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm not going to ask you to do this now because the hour is late, but if you could provide me and the board the green infrastructure that's in this plan, because it's not obvious to me. There's been policy direction about doing it, and so I would like to know what is being done in the current CIP related to green infrastructure. And then just a couple other questions very quickly. Hopefully this will be a speed round. So the overland flooding issue comes up over and over again. I know the task force is soon going to give us a recommendation, am I right? What is the time frame on that?
On the impervious surface charge task force, the stakeholder group has had one meeting. I know they have another planned for, I believe, the end of the month or the beginning of December, and they're supposed to have a recommendation to the board. Must be the very beginning of next year.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that's coming. We're still working on it. It has been a long process, but it will help to balance out some of who's being charged for what and create some balance amongst the customers related to the base charge. So I think that will be good news for most ratepayers. Lastly, then, there was some conversation about 2B. 2B is not available yet. I guess I should say, have a time frame related to 2B and when that might become public information?
Yes, MSD is working, obviously we're working very closely with the county team. There is a submission deadline for the end of June, but we have a collective goal of getting something to the board, and I believe it is, right around the end of the year and the beginning of next year, so that there would be time to share that and have discussions publicly before the submission date in June. I don't believe we have a firm date, but I think the board should expect to see something in the next month or two from the teams.
With time for public input, so that's what I'm getting at. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 1 second. Vice President Dreehouse, are you done?
I am.
Okay.
I know, it's surprising.
Commissioner Dumas, do you have anything
I
else?
did want to make one comment about the impervious surface, and I know in 20, they were talking about getting committees together, and they've been, I just heard you say they had one meeting, they're gonna have a second meeting, and then present something to us in January. I'm just confused on how they can do it so quickly. It's been hanging out so long. They're gonna have one final meeting, so they've had how many meetings have they had?
There have been, I want to say 7 briefings where it's been our teams presenting the information and having, some facilitated discussion.
Okay.
We have now switched to the stakeholders are having their own meetings to talk about everything that's been shared and to ask us for any clarifications, but really now so they've had one of those. But yes, prior to, over the last year or two, there have been at least 7 of these meetings where they've been involved and we've shared all this information, kind of developed it to get to the point we have now.
So my question was, is it realistic to even say January? But it sounds like it is realistic.
I think it is realistic, yes.
That's all I had.
Thank you. I will say I am not sold on impervious surface.
I'm not either.
If we're talking about saving people $1.50. According to you, it's only $1.50. And I had brought up, there are people who are very involved in this issue, and I really appreciate them. But the majority of the ratepayers are not involved. I mean, I had asked, would the churches, do they know? Do the nonprofits? I mean, Word of Deliverance, that big old lot. I mean, that'll be a big bill. Small business owners that own property, are they nonprofits? I know I'd asked for them to be involved. You may have done that, but I know a lot of churches don't know about this, because I go to church and they don't, and they start finding out, you know, it's more than $1.50. We're saying it's gonna be fair, just like, you know, they said that when they said we could pump our own gas, it'll be cheaper. It's higher than ever. And nobody's washing the windows or anything. They said if we go to Kroger's and you go to self-service, it's gonna be cheaper. It's higher. So I just do have, I mean, I understand the big corporations, but somehow they're always able to come up with their lawyers and find something in the ORC, and they're able to get abatements and they wiggle their way out. But I'm saying these folks that have, you know, lots, particularly I'm saying the church community, because I can hear Corinthian Baptists having a problem. I could hear, you know, over there with the two Lynches and others. It's just churches everywhere, no matter what. We're using a lot of churches around the whole county that have some very big lots. I mean, even in Cleves, we're at a church. We're at churches everywhere. So I'm hopeful. You know, I didn't answer today, but I had asked about this a while ago. And I'm hopeful because, you know, these entities they don't know about it now. They only know about it when this bill comes. They haven't been paying this bill, now they got a bill. And these churches, I mean, they're struggling right now after COVID. A lot of people are struggling, so they're calling now. No, I'm just kidding. They heard me, they're calling the clerk now, so what's going on? But I want you to, when you do your report, to let us know, has there been an extensive outreach with this piece?
Well, can I just say that I wouldn't expect this board to pass anything without public hearings about the impervious surface fee. With what's coming as a recommendation. And so then we would have public hearings about whether or not this community wants to embark on something like that or change it or make modifications to it. So I'm not suggesting what we would have in front of us. We'd vote, you know, this is part of a process from where I sit, and we'd have public hearings, get some public input, and see what we think collectively as a community.
Oh yeah, no, I know we're gonna have public hearing. A lot of time, public hearing, nobody shows up because they ain't got the bill.
I think they.
What I was saying, what I was saying is that I wanted in the initial. You had some people that you said. I told you that before you come back to us, because a lot of times people don't like the back end; they want to be on the front end. And I had asked, could we involve or include? And at the time, we said all of us had said yes. I just want to make sure that MSD is done.
Yes, we did add.
Okay, good.
I mean, you know, as you said, it's hard to get everyone, but we did add some of the churches, some of the groups, and schools. I can't remember who was added, but in response to the last
I just wanted to bring that back up because we hadn't really talked about this subject in the year. I just wanted to bring it back up and make sure those are the people that sitting at the table that actually own buildings, not somebody that, you know, I'm here representing, but I don't have a church. They need to have an actual building. There's pastoring, and then there's people who are pastors. And the church, as Bishop would tell us, is different. So the people that got to pay the bill, we hope that they're at the table. I'm sorry, Mr. Ludo, you wanted to add something?
Just a brief note. It came up a little bit earlier about the implication of the capital budget into this. I know the board is aware of this, but for people who may be watching at home, just in terms of how these two interrelate. So there may be a large increase in the capital budget. That is not necessarily a direct increase in the operating budget or ultimately the rate. So the capital budget ultimately integrates with the rate and the operating budget through the debt service line item. This year, MSD is proposed, they have $83 million for debt service, actually a decrease of $1 million in debt service. And there may be some cash funded capital, I would imagine, that might relate directly to the rate need, but the implication for the sizable increase in capital, I believe, is more of a long-term trajectory of where you might see rates in the future as debt is then issued to reimburse for that for those projects later on. So you might see that ripple through the budget later. But I just wanted to make sure the board was aware, and anyone watching at home, that increase this year does not necessarily mean that rates are going up by that amount next year.
And so on the capital, this 3% would include the capital, or would that be a different? Because I remember, I'm trying to make sure I understand, they were saying there may be another rate to go up based on our
Yeah, so
things that we have to do.
right, so
I'm just trying to get the total number.
right,
to
so
the person.
there's
Oh.
right, so ultimately when capital expenditures are reimbursed with a bond issuance, that debt service on the bond issuance is factored into the operating budget, along with any cash funded capital that ultimately relates to a rate increase at the end of the day. But just because we're showing $260 million in capital doesn't necessarily mean that your rate is going to be reflective of $260 million in capital next year, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Everybody got the questions, everything right? Okay, we're gonna come out of public hearing and y'all go into the hallways. And thank you all for being here for the public hearing. I make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay, we're still in session, so we won't be able to chit chat with you. But if you need to talk to the people at MSD, they said they don't know you, you don't know them, they're in the hallway. So if y'all need to get to the hallway. Okay, we have our final speaker in the public hearing, not public hearing, I'm sorry, public comments, Mr. William Jackson. Someone, as they go out, shut the door so they can chit chat while we continue. Mr. Jackson, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you for the floor. This technology world that has evolved since I was a child in this country has gone way too far. And I have a lawsuit that I've added the county to for allowing only people 2 minutes to speak and all this equipment. I think we need a lot more time to speak on some things that have been, I'm not accusing this board of anything, but everything that is happening with threats to human life, even through Charles J. Lucan himself, who's now on the Railroad Commission that was appointed by the mayor, not elected to the Railroad Commission, and things I've experienced through filings in federal court, getting a notary that they advertise they have a notary available for these places, starting through UPS, through the library. You get there, they're gone for the day. Clock it out, like a lot of these jobs. The people are just, judges and magistrates are admitting there's many people lying in our system. L-Y-I-N-G, that's a different from L-I, the way with people are, that means they're lying down doing nothing, collecting money somewhere. Judges and magistrates don't know who's telling the truth. Lots of people have been increments of people's finances by force and fraud of their own identities. I've added the county to this lawsuit. No one knows who's misappropriated the money that people are trying to appropriate, many different bodies of government. But people have gone to jail. Donald Trump has done nothing more different than PG Seidenfeld, but worse through Canada, and people that he has hatred through that he used to get elected and rip people off through the Ponzi scheme that started in North Carolina, where I've asked the people to resign under Cooper and Stein. I don't know what happened in that election, but I filed an elections complaint in Kentucky and North Carolina. And there's things that people are lying out, starting in the federal courthouses in D.C. Timestamps that Charles Lucan was the first one that was guilty of doing that stuff as a public official.
Okay. That concludes our public comments. I don't think we have anything else on MSD. Do we have anything else? There's another item for MSD, the engineer? Okay. We're gonna go with the agenda regular. I just didn't want, you said you didn't know them, they didn't know you, so I wanted to connect the two. But is there an MSD item on the end, Mr. Engineer? Okay, yep. Okay, so I'm gonna move to the regular agenda. We'll do our comments at the end if y'all okay, because I know everybody's been here a long time, so I was trying to. Okay, Mr. Engineer.
Yes. Item number 1 is a resolution for a memorandum of understanding with MSD for construction and maintenance of a storm sewer improvement on Winton Road at Corbett, which is project 502308. There's MSD assets and Hamilton County Engineer assets that were in conflict with storm sewer and a sanitary sewer that require some replacements and repairs. This will allow the engineer to do all the administration and bidding of the project, the construction. MSD will be paying for it. It will allow us to work together to get this repair made.
Okay, would you like to say something about, to the microphone, I'm sorry.
I don't really have anything to say about that. Just if you had any questions.
Okay. I'll open up for questions. Any questions, Commissioner?
Just a quick question, MSD will be paying for it, is there a reason why, like, road fund or whatever?
Yes, this was an existing storm sewer when MSD upgraded their line a number of years ago. They actually went through the storm sewer. So this is the replacement and repair of the storm sewer where their line went through.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 1.
Second.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Do you want me to get my other items too?
Thank
or
you.
do
Yes,
wanna wait?
yes, you're gonna have your
Okay.
other items.
All right, sure.
We'll keep going.
Item number 2 is a resolution for an intergovernmental agreement with Delhi Township and Oak Hill School Board. This will allow us to partner for the rental of a rubber-tired loader for the 2023-24 snow and ice season. This is for $3,720 out of the Road and Bridge funds. Item number 3 is an intergovernmental agreement with Harrison Township, also for the rental of a rubber-tired loader for the 2023-24 snow and ice season. That's $3,000 out of Road and Bridge funds. And item number 4 is a resolution awarding a contract to the lowest and best bidder for the Clough Pike landslide stabilization to JTM Smith Construction. The bids were opened on September 21st. Engineer's estimate was $1,243,000. It came in 20% under the estimate at $898,248. $494,000 of that will be paid by the Ohio Public Works Commission, and the balance out of permissive road fund or permissive auto funds.
Okay,
That's all I have.
that's all you have? Okay, we're gonna open it up, Vice President.
I've got no
Dreehouse.
questions.
Commissioner Dumas?
I have a question. On item 2, I noticed that
Yes.
the salt and rubber tire loader rental is a little higher than it usually is. Is that because there are 2 entities involved instead of 1?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve items 2 through 4.
Second.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse? Yes. Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got the, do we have any by-leaves, Mr. Little? No by-leaves today, right? Okay, let's go through the consent agenda.
There was one.
It got removed, okay.
Okay, consent agenda. I'll walk through these fairly quickly for the board. Item number 5 is a budget adjustment for $3.8 million, includes several items, the largest of which is a year-end payroll adjustment in juvenile court. Item number 6 is a contract through the sheriff's office for $150,000 with Fusus. This is for the sheriff's video and data collaboration project and their real-time crime initiatives. Item number 7 is a then and now between Environmental Services and Pitney Bowes for increased postage costs. Item number 8 is for $2.96 million is a contract between the board and juvenile court and Children's Hospital for medical services at the Juvenile Youth Center. Item number 9 is a resolution for a purchase order for $160,390 for Cincinnati Bell Technology Services for phone system hardware upgrades in the county. We have several JFS items. Item number 10 is a renewal and an amendment of an agreement with RTS. With Belmont Pines for residential treatment services for $100,000. Item number 11 is an agreement with Every Child Succeeds for home visitation parent training services for $11,058. Item number 12 is a consulting agreement with Cohere Public Benefit, LLC. It's for $169,850 for community engagement and consulting services. Item number 13 is a renewal and an amendment of an agreement with the Rolling Hills Hospital LLC for residential treatment services for $400,000. Item number 14 is an amendment to an agreement with National Youth Advocates Program, or NYAP, for foster care services for $5.15 million. Item number 15 is a resolution, it's an amendment of an agreement with SAFY, or Specialized Alternatives for Families and Youth of Ohio, for foster care services for $2.003 million. That's the JFS items. Planning and Development is an agreement, approving an agreement with between the county and Strategies to End Homelessness. This is for the continuum of care services provided by Strategies to End Homelessness, so that the county can draw down its HUD Emergency Solutions Grant at the total cost of that is $295,937, or the total dollar value is, for the rapid rehousing program primarily. We have a travel item, item number 17, which is requesting the authorization to travel at the county's expense of one employee from the coroner's office to Bloomington, Indiana. And commissioners, that is your consent agenda.
Thank you. I'll open it up. Vice President
I have no
Dumas.
questions.
Commissioner Dumas.
No questions.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve items number 5 through 17 and accept for the record.
Second.
Commissioner Reese.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse.
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas.
Okay, before we go into executive session, I'll open it up if we have any comments, Vice President.
Well, I did,
Perez.
but I'm not going to offer them
Wanna
all
hold
because
them?
we're too late. I just want to say congratulations to all of those that won or were reelected to office throughout the county, and thank you to those that were willing to put their names on the ballot. While they may not have succeeded, we are grateful that people are still willing to run for elected office. So, and compliments and congratulations also to the Board of Elections, who ran a very well-run election. Both early vote and election day were, from what I understand, without a hitch. So congratulations to them, and thank you for their work.
I'd like to second that to all those who were elected, re-elected, those who ran, but also to our Board of Elections. Turnout was up for this type of election, and so I want to also congratulate the Board of Elections and all the poll workers that worked as well. And I just want to also say the world was watching Ohio, and as it relates to issue 1, and I just want to say we stepped up, and congratulations to those who worked on that issue. Issue 1, there were we had a special election in August, so I want to thank the Board of Elections for that. It cost us some additional funding, but we ran that election and got the word out, and there was confusion in that regard. But the people spoke up, came out and voted in the middle of vacation season, and certainly those who came out and voted. So again, I do want to congratulate everybody, as well as the people that put the election, a well-ran election. I have to say, we've got a great early vote center. And so we want to say that. Commissioner Dumas?
Thank you. I won't go into everything I was going to say, but I was going to give you some information about the White House briefing. Just one thing, there were lots of things discussed this time, but there was really people put on notice as it relates to our commercial building vacancies are higher than they've ever been in 30 years. So, and our housing level, our ability to house people residential is so low. So the White House is asking about conversion. People that are interested in taking their commercial property and turning it into residential property, there are a lot of incentives available for that. I'll talk about the rest the next time.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you both. I know we had a hearing and we had a lot of people come out for MSD as well as veterans today. I make a motion for us to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 12122G2 to discuss the acquisition of property, as well as an executive session to discuss collective bargaining with the Hamilton County Clerk of Courts, Human Resources Director as well.
Second.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.